Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Football Live, a show that is a little bit different because the focus is going to be on Europe today. There are still two Premier League games for us to cover, though. There's Brentford v Nottingham Forest and Brighton v Wolves, and we're also going to dip our toe into the Championship as well. That's going to be Sunderland v Watford. As for the rest of Europe, well, there are so many games for us to focus on. We've got Leipzig v Hoffenheim at 2:30, along with Union Berlin v Bayer Leverkusen at the same time. We also then at 4:30 have Lille v Hesio. That is coming up at 4:30, and Roma v AC Milan at 5 o'clock. There are so many games across the European continent for us to turn our attention to, and we're going to start at the G-Tech Stadium. Brentford v Nottingham Forest with Patrick Narrett. That one's coming up at 3 o'clock. But before we do that, before we hear from Patrick, there are loads of games that happened in midweek. We had Arsenal losing to Manchester City 4-1 at the Etihad. That game is huge and probably is going to have so many ramifications in the title race. We have Chelsea v Brentford. Chelsea, who haven't managed to win under Frank Lampard yet. Well, they lost 2-0 to Brentford. It really was a big week as well, with Tottenham drawing 2-2 to Manchester United. And if you don't know quite what happened and want to kind of update yourself, well, take a listen to this, for this is going to tell you everything that happened in midweek.
A huge win for Manchester City and a potentially crushing defeat for Arsenal saw City move to within 2 points of the Gunners at the top of the Premier League, but with 2 games in hand. City thrashed Arsenal 4-1 with 2 goals from Kevin De Bruyne and 1 each from John Stones and Erling Haaland. Rob Holding scored Arsenal's consolation. After a horrific week, Tottenham Hotspur fans were not looking forward to the visit of Manchester United, and when they went 2-0 down just before half-time, many feared another beating. But signs of life in North London as Ryan Mason's men rallied to score twice in the second half and get a spirited 2-2 draw. Aston Villa are in 5th. Their 1-0 win at home to Fulham saw them leap up into the Europa League spot, courtesy of a goal from defender Tyrone Mings. It means that Villa are now unbeaten for 2 months. Liverpool continued their good run of form with a slender 2-1 win at West Ham. Hammers boss David Moyes was furious at the lack of a VAR check for what appeared to be a clear handball in the Liverpool penalty area late in the game by Thiago that should have handed his team a penalty. The Hammers now 5 points clear of the drop, Liverpool in 6th. Chelsea are still winless under Frank Lampard, and their season goes from bad to even worse after they were comfortably beaten 2-0 at home by Brentford. The Blues now languishing in 11th, desperate for the season to end. Wolves and Crystal Palace are now pretty safe from the drop, but Palace's good run of form under Roy Hodgson has ended as Wolves comfortably beat them 2-0 at Molineux. A very early Joachim Andersen own goal and a very late Ruben Neves penalty were enough for all 3 points. Further down, Nottingham Forest were desperate for a win, and they took advantage of Brighton's FA Cup semi-final hangover to beat the Seagulls 3-1 at the City Ground. Brighton went ahead through Facundo Buonanotte, but an own goal from Pascal Gross, along with goals from Danilo and Gibbs White, gave Forest the points that hauled them out of the drop zone. Leeds and Leicester fought out a 1-1 draw, but the Foxes remain in the bottom 3, while Leeds are just above it. A late goal from Jamie Vardy, securing the point for Leicester. Finally, Sheffield United confirmed their return to the Premier League after a win against West Brom to join Burnley, who had already sealed their promotion and also secured the Championship title this week.
Yes, and it was a huge week. It was brilliantly reported there by Andrew Bonacore. A big week that is going to have ramifications all across the Premier League. I said we were going to start with Patrick Narrett, but he's not quite ready yet. There's a few technical difficulties there. So we're going to go to Brighton and to the Amex Stadium, v Wolves with Matt Smith. Brighton, it's been very complicated for them recently. Last week, they lost to Manchester United agonisingly at Wembley on penalties. Sonny March blazed it over the crossbar there. And as Wolverhampton Wanderers, well, last week's win has done them the world of good, meaning they've now won 3 of their past 4 Premier League games. Julian Lopetegui is working wonders at Molineux, and they are charging towards safety. But it is going to start then with Brighton v Wolves, and it's Matt Smith with the team news.
Good afternoon, Josh. Good afternoon, Football Live listeners. Brighton and Hove Albion host a Wolves team high on confidence following their 2-0 win over Crystal Palace on Tuesday, which all but secured their Premier League status. Brighton have picked up 40 of their 49 points against teams currently in the bottom half of the Premier League, but their defeat to Nottingham Forest on Wednesday evening was their first against a bottom half side. Wolves have scored in 8 of their 10 away matches under Julian Lopetegui, and have won 3 of their last 4 matches. Big Brighton team news. Evan Ferguson remains out. There's no Robert Sanchez, no Moise Caicedo, no Quairo Mitoma, and no Alexis McAllister in the starting 11. So it's Jason Steele in goal, Joel Veltman, Adam Webster, Lewis Dunk, and Purvis Estupiñán as the back 4. Pascal Gross and Billy Gilmore set up as 2 central midfielders. Solly March, Julio Enciso, and Denis Undav, with Danny Welbeck as the lead striker. The Wolves squad are healthier than they have been for a while, so Julen Lopetegui has options to freshen things up. He's gone with Jose Sarr in goal, Nelson Semedo, Craig Dawson, Max Kilman, and Hugo Bueno as the back 5. João Gomez, Ruben Neves, Mario Lemina, Mateus Nunez, with Diogo Costa and Pedro Neto as 2 forwards going forward. About 50 minutes until we kick off here at the Amex. It's a big game. Brighton need points. Wolves need points. It's a good one.
It should be a really, really good one, shouldn't it, Matt? And, I mean, Brighton last week, how do you think they're going to respond from the defeat at Wembley? It was agonising. Probably outplayed Man United in spells during that game, and they probably would have felt a little bit hard done by. I know Solly March is definitely going to have been distraught, seen crying after he missed it. So, really, I mean, the question is, like I said at the start, how are they going to respond to this defeat?
It'll be interesting to see. I think maybe De Zerbi's done the right thing in giving Solly March an appearance here. A starting 11 spot. I think if he'd been, not dropped as such, but if he'd been rested, it would have been on his mind. So I think, De Zerbi needs a bounce back. I think, the defeat is not great for them going forward. They, are they really going to throw away their season, their hard work to try and get a European spot? They're 8th now. They're looking to climb today. They need 3 points today. It didn't really seem that way. Maybe January, February, March. But as we're coming into the run-in, they still need points. They can't sort of go lackadaisical. They can't relax. I think they'd have to be more confident here. But they're facing a side in Wolves that are on the up in a way. They're on the way up. They're getting their points and they're getting further and further away from the relegation zone. So it's going to be a tough game for both sides, I think.
As for Wolves as well, they're probably safe, you'd argue, unless they go on an awful run of form. 37 points, probably only need another 3 points, definitely, to get to that magic 40-point mark, which is normally considered safe, but you don't really see the teams in 18th and 19th, Leicester and Everton respectively, getting to 37 points. So how would you think Wolves would have seen their season? I think they're a little bit disrespected because I don't really see many people praising Julian Lopetegui at all for the work he's done in Wolverhampton and in the Midlands. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the hard work started as soon as he was appointed. It was quite a big name to come to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think it's Wolves fans maybe they want to maybe push for sort of the top half of the table, but they're pushing to try and keep themselves away from the relegation zone. So I think they've done very, very well so far. Lopetegui has to be happy. Like you say, they're not technically safe yet, but like you say, you can't really see the likes of Leicester and Everton who are in terrible form. You can't really see them catching. But it's not over until it's over. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they need points. If it's a point here, away from home, that'll do them some good. And a win would do them wonders.
A win would do them wonders. They need points, though, and they've been hard to come by on the road. They need 2 victories in their last 16 away league fixtures this season. That was both a 2-1 scoreline against Everton and Southampton, so teams lower than in the table. Fortunately, Brighton, the Seagulls, they're flying this year, so it might be really, really tough for them. Thank you very much, Matt Smith. We're now going to head up further up the country, but not so far, staying in the south and staying in London at the G-Tech Stadium with Brentford being Nottingham Forest with Patrick Narrett. Patrick, I mean, Brentford, they're brilliant this season. They're going to be very, very safe. And that win against Chelsea in the world of good because their season was sort of slipping away from them just gradually, slowly, not really hitting the heights. And obviously 3 defeats in a row for them before the victories against Chelsea in midweek. And as for Nottingham Forest, well, the tagline here on Football Live is, can Forest survive the drop with a result away at Brentford today? This is a huge one. Like every game in the Premier League running with teams at the bottom, they need points and they need them wherever they can get, don't they, Patrick?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll tell you what, the weather is nice over here. It's sunny. So a good day for a game of football. I think, yeah, like you said, both teams got something to play for. For Brentford, that away win last week, 2-0 away to Chelsea, that was a great result for them. And they're pushing for Europe. As for Nottingham Forest, they got a great result during the week as well. One at home to, 3-1 against Brighton. So Nottingham Forest are trying to stay in the Premiership, and Brentford are trying to see if they can actually finish as high as they can and to be in Europe. That'd be great if you get a team like Brentford in Europe. Looking at the teams, Brentford made 4 changes today from that win against Chelsea. You got Sade, Mbeumo, and Damsgaard and Hickey all coming. So the side looks like this with a formation of 4-3-3. Reina in goal, Henry, Mee, Pinnock, Hickey. That's the back 4. In midfield, you got Jensen, Janet, and Damsgaard. They've come in, and Sade, that's coming as well, and Tony and Mbeumo up top. So it looks to me like it's going to 4-3-3 formation, trying to get the win, hopefully. With regards to Nottingham Forest, they've made 1 change from the game last week. Keep it the same. So their side, Worrell comes in. So it looks like a 3-4-3 for me formation. So when they play, might not be that formation when they start playing. So you got Navas in goal. The man's been around, won Europe, won this, won that. And you got Mkene, Filippi, and Worrell comes in the back 3. Lodi, Danilo, Mangala, and Aurier. Is it Spurs coming there? Yep, he's playing well on the right-hand side. Gibbs White, Johnson, and Owenini up top. And that's the Forest side. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays this game, because for Brentford, they're very good in set pieces. Probably, I think, the best set-piece team out there. Anyway, that's what I think. So kick off in about 55 minutes. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a brilliant game, that one, isn't it? Both teams who both like to play attacking football. So whatever happens, it's going to be a big one. We're getting news as well, Patrick. I'll come to you shortly, but there is a penalty at Crystal Palace to Crystal Palace. That is the game that's happening at 12:30, the early kickoff, and Crystal Palace have just converted that penalty.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is now 4-2 to the Eagles. That win will take them to 40 points, and that will probably confirm their survival. There was questions over Roy Hodgson and the work he would be able to do at his former club after the cloud that he left with leaving Palace. But unfortunately for Palace fans and Roy Hodgson, he has taken the Eagles to new heights, and they're about to win their 3rd game in 4 games. It's Crystal Palace 4, West Ham 2, not the result the West Ham are going to want, though. They need wins. They've been on fantastic form recently, though, David Moyes' side. But with that win, well, they're still only on 34 points, and they're still only 5 points clear of the relegation zone. They will have a game in hand after this weekend, but they really would have liked to have been more points clear of that. It's Eze as well from 12 yards out. Roy Hodgson is working wonders with that squad, and he's working wonders with Eze. Back to Patrick Norret now. Sorry to jump in there, Patrick, but you've got to update on the goals. We'll talk about Brentford first, really. They really have been overachieving this season, haven't they, if you look at the budget of the team? And at some points, we were questioning whether they were going to get Europe. I mean, they mathematically still can. Only 6 points out of 7th place Liverpool right now. However, it's probably going to be a little bit of a stretch. Like I said, 3 defeats in their last 5 games and a draw and a win in their last 2. Form hasn't been great recently, but they've still got to leave this season with a smile on their face, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, the way they play suits the players they've got. And they play, I mean, I think I've done them before. It's a numbers game they play, basically. Moneyball, we call it. And they look for these superstars below, the league below, and then put them together and then obviously coach them and then get results over them. The exact example is Tony, the way he plays, and Burma, they play, and Shady, and all the players they've got. So they play a certain way. They can be physical. It reminds me of the old Wimbledon. I wouldn't say all Route 1, but they do play to Tony quite a lot, and he holds the ball up, and then the others join in. And they're very good in pressing. So I'm quite impressed the way they play. They are a difficult team to play against. So I think they're doing quite well. For a team like that, winning against Chelsea 2-0 away, that was a great result for them. They won the West London Derby, I would call it. So they won that. So, but today it might be a bit different because Nottingham Forest, the way they play, they surprise me sometimes. I'm not quite sure whether they're a counter-attacking team or a possession-based team. He tends to flick in between Stuart Cooper. He's very good at doing that. So that would be interesting, what Forest do today.
I mean, Forest, they defeated Brighton at the City Ground 3-1, and really you assume they would have taken confidence from the narrow loss they had at Liverpool at Anfield, but they really took Liverpool all the way, coming from 2 goals behind at Anfield in 2 successive occasions. So today comes a really good chance for them to end their 11-game winless league run. Do you think they're sort of turning a corner at the moment, Patrick? Taking Liverpool all the way and then beating Brighton?
Well, that game away, when you come away from Anfield and you score 2 goals, you've got to think, we could have taken a point here. But they've done well. Now, that game against Brighton, to be honest with you, it was going away from them a little bit until they scored that made it 2-1. Then they were more on it. They felt more confident. I think it's a team that needs confidence. I think if they get the first goal here, they'll go and play their game. But as long as the game goes on, say 20 or 30, 40 minutes, and then they're not getting anywhere, then I think, it's not a team that's confident. But I think if they get the first goal, they'll just play their game. Up and down season for them. Some games I'm watching, I thought they should have won it, and it's just a little mistakes they make. But they're a team who just carry on. If they lose, if they go down 1-0, they keep trying. They don't change anything they do. So it'd be interesting to see on the confidence side whether they're going to improve in this game.
It will be very, very interesting to see, and we will get the answers to that in a couple of hours. That game kicks off at 3 o'clock. We'll end at 5 o'clock. Thank you very much, Patchy Narette. We're going to stay in England for now, and we're going to over to Jack Hesson, who is covering the Sunderland v Watford game. It was meant to be Napoli, but unfortunately, the Napoli game was changed over onto Sunday, so he took a last-minute flight from Naples to Sunderland. Not as exotic as you would have liked, is it, Jack Hesson?
Perhaps not, Josh. A very good afternoon to you, but it is still, regardless, a massive game for Sunderland. Everything they've been through over the past few years, and they have an excellent chance of a playoff spot. 2 games left in the Championship. The form of 9 games unbeaten has put them 1 spot away from a playoff spot. A win today will put them ahead of Millwall on goal difference, and they could also leapfrog 6th place Coventry as well if they were to lose to Birmingham City. They also play at the same time. For Sunderland then, the lineup is Anthony Patterson in goals, a backline of Lyndon Gooch, Luke O'Nien, Trai Hume and Dennis Sirkin, a midfield 2 of Dan Neil and Pierre Ekwa. In the attacking midfield, some familiar faces on loan: Manchester United winger Amad Diallo on the right hand side, Patrick Roberts playing in the central attacking position, he's of course a former Manchester United loanee, and Jack Clark playing on the left hand side as well. Joe Geldhart leads the line. As for Watford then, well, their 1-0 defeat to Hull in the last fixture all but confirmed that they could not get that playoff spot. They sit 13th place in the table, meaning for this game they're playing for pride and to try and get as far up the table as possible. The lineup for them then is Daniel Bachmann starts in goals, a backline of Hassan Kamara, Christian Casabali, Ryan Porteous, former Hibs man in January signing, plays at centre-half as well. Ryan Andrews playing at right-back. Hamza Chowdhury in the central defensive midfield and attacking front 4 of Yasser Asprilla, Imran Loza, Ken Serma and Ismail Assar, and Keenan Davis leads the line. As I said, for Watford, this really is all but over, but for Sunderland, the stakes could not be higher, and it's a packed stadium light this afternoon.
This is a huge, huge game for Sunderland, isn't it? You spoke about it, Jack, all the trials and tribulation, the heartbreak that they've been through, dropping down to League One, having so many years in the hells of League One. They finally broke through enough to be promoted last year. Who would have thought they would have done this under Tony Mowbray? And like we said today, if results go their way, they could possibly even secure a playoff spot. But results have got to go kindly, possibly got to go their way. What are your thoughts on Sunderland, Jack? I mean, the work they've been able to do and under Tony Mowbray, it's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, the progress has been excellent over the past couple of years. Of course, I mean, you remember when they went down to the Premier League, they set out a documentary because they thought they were going to go back up to the Premier League and they'd have this big inspiring story of getting themselves back up there, and they got relegated that season as well. Something that is so familiar to so many Premier League teams that go down to that level and end up dropping down to the further level. But some years in League One can, build up some resolve, make teams consider choices, how they operate, and build themselves back up into the Premier League again stronger. I feel like Sunderland, the first season back in the Championship, they found themselves in a playoff spot. I have no doubt that in the next few years we're going to see them back in the Premier League. It would be absolutely incredible if they were to do it this season, of course. But regardless, I think they're a club on the up. A bit like their neighbours Newcastle. It's happy days on that side of the country.
It's a really, really good time to be a football fan in the North East. It's also a really, really good time to be a fan of the Crystal Palace of West Ham, because West Ham have got a goal back.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
In what has been one of the best Premier League games of the season, West Ham have pegged one back. They did take the lead early on in that fixture, but Crystal Palace were able to turn things around and go 3 goals up, 2-1. So 3-1 up at home. Crystal Palace nicked one back through Antonio for half-time, and since the other side of half-time, in the second lot of 45 minutes, they have got 2 goals back. Naif is the man who gets the goal, and it's now Crystal Palace 4, West Ham 3. And as always, we always promise goals on Football Live.
Our partners at NairaBet are back with another special offer. Get 500 Naira free every time a Nigerian player scores. With 41 goals combined this season, how many will Mofi, Chukwueze, Iheanacho, Iwobi and Ndidi net you? When they score, so do you. To qualify, head over to NairaBet and make sure you include the following games in your ACCA. Villarreal versus Celta Vigo, Troyes versus Nice, Leicester versus Everton. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more details. ACCA must be placed by midnight tonight. Minimum stake required is 500 Naira. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly.
Football Live is back tomorrow from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Fulham take on Manchester City.
Fulham come from Championship and the season have been amazing.
And Liverpool.
But much more important that we win the game. And
against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM. It is drama you will not want to miss.
Well, against all the odds, Bournemouth are taking the lead. Not a single shot on target up to this point.
Yeah, it was a James Ward-Prowse classic. He just kills it beautifully.
Well, it's been absolute chaos.
Yes, Josh. Football's a cruel game. You can have all the possession you want, but if you don't put the ball at the back of the net.
It was, again, Kate and Son, like the good old days.
But this show never disappoints.
Yes, well, it's Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 1 here, and it's Eberechi Eze who's got the goal.
Oh my word, Josh. I cannot believe how Phil Foden has not made this 2-0.
Yes, Barry, it's a second goal for Borussia Dortmund, and the Dice Watch go on are running away with it now.
Football Live, the preview show with myself, Barry Swain, returns on Monday, exclusive to Brilla FM. It's where I take a look back at all of the action in today's show and tomorrow's show on Brilla FM and Football Live. And we also hear from the managers, we hear from the players, we take a look at who's going to win the leagues, who's going into Europe, and who will get relegated. It's all on Football Live, the preview show, this Monday, exclusive on Brilla FM.
Today's show is powered by Hollandia and Chivita.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brilla FM with Football Live.
But it always starts with us.
All the key action from around Europe's top leagues. Wow. Just wow. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM, powered by NairaBet. Have your say on today's action and interact with Brilla FM on Twitter at Brilla FM 889, on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM, and on Instagram, Brilla FM 889. Welcome back to Football Live on Brilla FM. I was too eager to jump in there. I really want to get this show out of the way, and I really want to bring you all the drama and the action, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because we have ticked all the boxes in England, covering all the games that are going to be kicking off at 3 o'clock, and we're now going to turn our attention to Europe, whereas where a lot of the action is lying on the land today on Football Live. I'm going to start with Leipzig v Hoffenheim with Jamie McKeague. Leipzig, they're trying to go for a Champions League spot, but after defeat last week at Leverkusen, they slipped into fifth. They've been in really poor form recently, losing 5 of their last 9 matches. And it is really, really concerning for them because they don't get top 4. Marco Rose doesn't get top 4. It has not been a very good first season in charge for him. As for Hoffenheim, well, they've been in really good form recently. They're languishing down near the bottom, but they've accumulated 10 points from a possible 12 in their 4-game unbeaten run. That has seen them bridge a little bit of daylight between them and the respective teams down the bottom of the table and 16th place Stuttgart. The gap is now 3 points, I think. Yeah, it is. It's 3 or 4 points, you want to say. But either way, it's really, really close down the bottom, and they need to pick up as many points possibly, don't they, Jamie McKeague? Either way this one goes, it's going to be a fascinating tie.
It definitely is, Josh, and I am delighted to be covering it once again. Hoffenheim versus RB Leipzig, or RB Leipzig, versus Hoffenheim. Some could call it the Julian Nagelsmann derby. Others may call it an easy 3 points for RB Leipzig, but this game will be a tight and intriguing battle as both teams have a lot to play for at both ends of the Bundesliga table. Some team news for you. Both teams set up in a 3-4-2-1 for Leipzig. Marco Rose made a couple of changes to his squad that lost to Bayer Leverkusen last weekend. Blashwich comes in goal, keeps his place in goal. The Leipzig back three remains exactly the same as Klosterman, Orban and Gavardiol keep their place at defence. Samakin replaces Halstenberg at right wing back, and Ram replaces the injured Benjamin Hendricks at left wing back. Lehmer comes in for the suspended Haidara in midfield, and Kevin Campbell keeps his place in the middle. Dani Olmo is a fitness risk, and Sebastião, I'm glad he's missing because that's a tough word to say, is suspended. So Nico Forsberg and Leipzig star man Christopher Nkunku return for Leipzig, and Timo Werner leads the line in search of his 10th league goal of the season. For Hoffenheim, Pellegrino Matarazzo also changes up his squad, which lost to Cologne at the weekend. Captain Baumann remains in goal, and it's a brand new back three as Brooks, Kabak, and Apoguma come in. Karabek, Geiger, Angelino remain in midfield, and top scorer Kramaric and Bibo keep their place in attack, and De Boer replaces Becker up front. Marco Rose's side have been excellent at home. They're the third best team at home this season and have won 4 out of their last 5 league games at the Red Bull Arena. And Hoffenheim haven't been the best team on the road this season, but their last away trip was to the Allianz Arena against Bayern Munich, where they picked up an impressive 1-1 draw thanks to a late winner from top goal scorer Kramaric. However, in the last 10 away games, they've lost 7 of them. Leipzig are chasing a Champions League spot and could enter the top 4 if Freiburg drop points today, so make sure to keep an eye on that game. And Hoffenheim are battling relegation and sit just 4 points clear of the drop zone with 5 games to play. Really a must-win game for both teams, but to be honest, you probably have to favour RB Leipzig today.
The Bundesliga really is a fascinating league, isn't it, this year, Jamie? Obviously, so much to play for at the top, so much to play for in the Champions League pots, and then there's so much to play for in the relegation battle. So really, everywhere you look, there really is something to lose for each team week in, week out. So this game as well, on both ends of the table, the Champions League and the relegation battle, has such a key and poignant place this week, doesn't it? So we'll start off with Leipzig. Really, they've got to be a little bit disappointed. Really poor form recently, and really, if they go at the form with the fact that Dortmund and Bayern haven't been in the best form as well, they may have been looking at their first ever Bundesliga title. So there's got to be a little bit of bitterness within the Leipzig camp with the fact that they've missed out on a maybe a potential Bundesliga and are now scrapping to save their season by getting top 4.
Definitely. I remember looking at the Bundesliga table in February, and there was about 5 points separating 5 teams. Union Berlin were top at 1 point, and RB Leipzig were right up there. And Marco Rose was getting shouts for a potential new face in European football, at the top of European football as a manager. I rate Marco Rose very highly, but like you said, their form recently has dipped off massively. I think if we're looking at the form table in the last 5 games, they sit 11th. They've only picked up 6 points in the last 5 games, only scoring 4 and conceding 8. And Hoffenheim, like you said, have been in good form. They've picked up 10 out of their last 5 games, scored 9 and only conceding 6. So it is a really intriguing battle, and we saw last night with Bochum taking a point off league leaders Dortmund. So the Bundesliga is wide open, and it is a league that usually delivers shocks. So maybe Hoffenheim could save their season and really keep themselves up today with a win, or RB Leipzig, if results do go their way, could slip back into Champions League spots, because we know, especially for a club like RB Leipzig, how important Champions League football is. And like you said, if RB Leipzig were to miss out in Champions League football, especially being so close to the top of the season just about a month ago, it would be seen as a bit of a failure season.
Yeah, Hoffenheim, this is a really unfamiliar place for them, isn't it? The fact that they spent 15 consecutive seasons in the top flight since they were promoted. They've really become a staple of this modern Bundesliga. And there really was concern for Hoffenheim, wasn't they? But, you know, their new manager, Matarazzo, has come in and he's done brilliantly, hasn't he? So really, Hoffenheim, I mean, we say brilliantly, but they're still not completely safe. But either way, Hoffenheim are in a much better place than they were a few weeks ago.
Definitely, and if you're just looking at now, like Bochum, they're just a place below them, and Hoffenheim have a game in hand on Bochum as well, but they picked up a very important point last night. But you would say if Stuttgart and potentially Schalke were to drop points today, and Hoffenheim were to pick up either a point or 3 points, you would say with 4 games remaining, Hoffenheim would be safe. I would say Hoffenheim would be safe if they picked up a win today, but it's football, anything can happen. But I do think if Matarazzo was to get a win today, his team would be safe.
Well, there we go. There's the Jamie McKee Bundesliga prediction. Hoffenheim fans are never going to hope you're all right. If not, they might be after you, Jamie. But there we go. Leipzig v Hoffenheim. That game is coming up in 1 minute's time because all the Bundesliga games kick off a little bit earlier than the Premier League. They kick off at 2:30. That means we have to hurry up and we have to get to Gage Morgan between Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen. A game that really is a 6-pointer at the top of the table. And results, which if both go against either team, could see their season going in a different direction. Because if Union Berlin win today, pick up 3 points, they will close the gap to Dortmund to about 3-4 points. I think I want to say it's 4 points at 3 points at the top of the Bundesliga table. That means they're back in the Bundesliga title race, which is incredible for a team that promoted 4 years ago. But if they lose and Bayer Leverkusen win, Bayer Leverkusen, they move up to 5 points, and that means Union Berlin are only 5 points clear of 6th place. That's the Europa League spot. And if the results go the way of RB Leipzig and Freiburg, well, they could find themselves only 1 point ahead of the Champions League spot. So this is a massive, massive game for Union Berlin today, isn't it, Gage?
Yes, Josh, this is a massive game for Union Berlin, and it's a massive game for Bayer Leverkusen as well. Union Berlin has been the surprise package in this Bundesliga. They're sitting third, and they're in a title race. Make no mistake, they can catch Dortmund and Munich, who keep faltering, they keep losing games. As for Bayer Leverkusen, 16th when Xabi Alonso took over, now 6th, undefeated in 13, Europa League semi-final. What a job the Liverpool icon has done there. In terms of team news, it's a battle of former Celtic right-backs today. Jeremy Frimpong, who's been playing so well for Leverkusen, he starts at right wing-back for them, as does Josip Juranovic, who signed for Union Berlin in January. I'll just run through the full team news for you now. It's the usual reliable Urs Fischer 3-5-2 for Union today. Doeke, Konote and Leite are the 3 centre-halves. As I mentioned, January signings Juranovic and Roussillon will provide the width on each side. And that midfield three, so industrious, so hardworking. Habura, the World Cup star like Dooney, and Rani Khedira, who this month signed a new deal to stay at Union. Up top, it's Jordan and Union Berlin's talisman, Geraldo Bakker. He'll be looking to add to his 9 league goals this campaign. For Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen, it's Hadriski in goals. I think they've went to a back 4 today of Hincapié, Tah, Tapsoba and Kasunu. Andrik will sit in front of them behind the attacking three of Bakker, Frimpong and Florian Wirtz, the young wonder kid. Up front, Hulslik and their top scorer, the speed demon, Moussa Diaby. Kickoff's just started here and it's Union 0, Leverkusen 0.
Even though, before we, this is going to be a game that we've really got to watch out for, and I will let you get that because you've got to watch the action, Gauge. But I'll just quickly have a quick word on the Bayer Leverkusen. They've been so impressive, haven't they? Across all competitions, they're now unbeaten in 13. Xabi Alonso's doing a phenomenal job. This year, they're not going to challenge for the Bundesliga, but next year, Xabi Alonso continue what he's doing. They could be up there, and they really could be looking towards the Bundesliga title, one they haven't found since 2003 to 2004.
Yeah, I think so. I think football sort of turned against the young manager for a couple of years there. It was all very positive about people like Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, inexperienced managers with good careers. But Xabi Alonso, he's sort of broke the mold. He's came in with not much managerial experience, taken over a big team in Leverkusen, and as I said in that little intro, from 16th to 6th, and in the first European semi-final for 20 years. It seems, and I don't want to jinx it for Leverkusen fans, the only way seems to be up.
It is. It really is. This is a really, really good time to be a Leverkusen fan. We haven't seen this much excitement around the team since the Michael Ballack days, since the Champions League final days, since the days which they bottled a Bundesliga title. Let's hope that doesn't happen next year, and let's hope they can win the Bundesliga. Thank you very much, Gage. A very fascinating game. And the Bundesliga, as I said, is such a phenomenal league this year, and I know we all love the Premier League, but there's going to be a real focus on the Bundesliga today, and there's a reason for that, because every game and every weekend has so much on the line. Each team is playing for so much, and that's when there's going to be a real big focus from them, because I'm incredibly excited about German football at the moment. There's also going to be focus on other 2 games coming up a little bit later at 5 o'clock. It's Roma v AC Milan. That's a huge game, like every game on Football Live towards the end of the season in terms of the Serie A Champions League race. Remember, Juventus got their 15 points reinstated, and that has now pushed AC Milan and Roma down the table. And after Roma's defeat to Atalanta last week, they now sit in 5th. So a win for AC Milan really would put a gap between Jose Mourinho and the AC Milan team, but it is at the Stadio Olimpico, a record that AC Milan have a very, very good place at, and a record they have a very, very good record at. That's coming up at 5 o'clock. Then we're having Lille v Sessio. That is coming up at 4:30 with Matthew Key. Lille, who are sitting in 6th at the moment. It's not been a great season for Pablo Fonseca. However, they have a fantastic home form, so they'll be looking to pick up 3 points there. Again, that's coming up at 4:30 with Matthew Key. In the Premier League currently, it's Crystal Palace 4, West Ham 3. West Ham, in terms of both these teams' survival, Crystal Palace need a win, and West Ham, they need at least a point from this game. But right now, they're going to be leading South London with no points unless they can find a last-minute equaliser, and that's been a 7-game thriller. Can they make it an 8-game thriller? 89 minutes gone. That is trickling into added time. You know the Premier League games that are coming up at 3 o'clock. That's Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Wolves. Lille, the AC Hessio is the only game that's coming up at 4 o'clock. The other games in the Bundesliga currently, it's scoreless across all the ties there. It's FC Cologne v Freiburg. It's Frankfurt v Augsburg. It's RB Leipzig v Hoffenheim, which we have got our man Jamie McKeague covering that one for you. Stuttgart v Mönchengladbach and Union Berlin v Leverkusen. That's what I'm talking about. Every single one of those games has an impact somewhere across the table. And then 5:30 is Schalke v Werder Bremen. Only 2 games in the Serie A today. AS Roma v AC Milan. That's the one that will be covering that one. AC Milan v Roma. That one is being covered by Leon Jones. And then coming up at 7:45, it's Torino v Atalanta. And in the Spanish Liga at 3:15, it's Elche v Rayo Vallecano. At 5:30, it's Real Madrid v Almeria. Real Madrid are pretty much all but out of the La Liga title fight. However, they've still got so much to fight for in that season, a Champions League final place and a Copa del Rey. And then coming up 8 o'clock, it's Barcelona v Real Betis. So not too many games across Europe for us to keep the eye on that we aren't covering, which really does show the extent of how good this show is and how many people we have all over the place and how good we are at keeping you up to date of all the action across Europe. There's so much to cover on this show. This is going to be an absolute brilliant one. For now, let's hear from some of the managers then. And we're going to start on here from Steve Cooper, who will take a lot of confidence from his side's win against Brighton. But he still isn't deluded against how hard the tie is going to be against Brentford at the G-Tech Stadium today. And this is what he had to say about his game coming up at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm glad you said big task rather than easy game, because there is no easy game in this Premier League. Now, Brentford have had a fantastic season. They deserve a lot of respect and credit for their continuous progress that they seem to make year in, year out. We talked about Brighton being a team or club that seems joined up and making progress, and I think Brentford's another really good example of that. And so when you go to their stadium, then you have to go and play all of that, and so yeah, this is going to be a really tough game tomorrow. They got some really good players.
Yes, and we asked if there would be a hangover for Brighton, the team that Nottingham Forest beat 3-1 on Wednesday night. We asked if there would be a hangover from the defeat at Wembley on penalties where Solly March blazed it over the crossbar. We spoke about it enough already. Sorry if you're a Brighton fan listening to this, bringing back the pain. But we spoke about it and really asked if there was going to hangover. And if the defeat against Nottingham Forest is to go by, well then, yes. And they're going to be looking to put the Demons to bed against Wolves today. But it's going to be a very tough game. And Robert De Zerbi has acknowledged that and has acknowledged the work Jordan Lopetegui has done at Wolves, getting to them to a point where they can challenge Brighton and maybe get the 3 points in the Amex today.
It's a good team with the good players. Wolverhampton game was a difficult game, very tough game, but we played very well and we deserve to win. We scored the last minute, I think, the end, but we played very well. It was one of the first game which we played very, very, very close in my idea.
Yes, it is, and this is the first game. He's acknowledging the fact that Wolves are the team that's really, we saw De Zerbi really starting to take his strength and grip on this team. and he's done a fantastic job ever since. He's just got to be careful this game doesn't really slip out of his hands and maybe the season doesn't slip away from them. There's also 7 minutes added on time between Crystal Palace and West Ham. 3 minutes been played so far. The scores is still 4-3. That's 2 Premier League games covered. The only 2 Premier League games that are on today. I don't know what's happening. There's 4 tomorrow, though. I actually think there may be more. The Sunday is the new Saturday. That's all you've got to say. But it doesn't mean Saturday is going to be any less better. But let's say that's the 2 Premier League games done. But we've still got another game that we're covering in England today. A game that will have so much ramification and impact on the Premier League next season, because we could see Sunderland playing in the Premier League next season, returning to the height of Premier League football. It's what their fans deserve. It's what their boards deserve. They're a giant and they deserve to be back in the Premier League. Tony Mowbray has done a fantastic job. And he's talking about the pressure of the playoff race, whether his team can sustain it, can live up for it, and whether they will get 3 points against Watford today. And apparently Tony Mowbray doesn't want to speak to us at the moment. Unfortunately, that is our fault there. Apologies for that. Tony Mowbray doesn't want to speak to us right now, but he'll speak to us right now. He's a very difficult man, Tony Mowbray, and this is what he had to say.
You know, in planet football that we live today, it's you lose these 2 games and you finish 12th, and the narrative for the rest of history will be that season we finished 12th. You know, it was all right, average. Let's just play the game. You know, Watford, as I said, they've got some very, very highly talented individual footballers. They've been on a difficult run, but I'm sure, you know, their pride they'll want to finish the season strong, and you know we have to be ready for that, really. So.
Exactly. That's what they've got to do. They've got to be ready for the game at hand, because if they win today, they will take a huge step towards the playoff chances and towards, well, maybe having a chance of going to Wembley and going to the Premier League next year. And it's a Watford side that are just slipping and sliding and really not doing any good. That's coming up at 3 o'clock. A man that is ready, though, and a man that is ready to live up to the pressure is Io, because he is our Naira betting expert, as I always say. Io, how are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm great, because even though there isn't too many Premier League games on today, it doesn't mean that they're any less exciting, are they? Because there's a lot to play for. Brighton and Wolves and Brentford, Nottingham Forest, respectively. We'll start with Brentford and Nottingham Forest, because this is a game really that has so much for both teams. Brentford, obviously, maybe trying to do that last-minute charge towards the Europa Conference League in 7th place, and Nottingham Forest, they're fighting for their lives. And a win today will go a huge step forward to Premier League safety. How do those sort of things on the line and those kind of pressures play into the odds today, Io?
I'm afraid it's bad news for Nottingham Forest, irrespective of the good results they had against Brighton in midweek. They are ranked outsiders at 5.25 with Naira Bet to win at Brentford. Brentford, as we know, as you said, they're fighting for that Europa Conference spot, or even possibly a Europa League spot if they come top 6 or top 7 at 1.70 to win the game. They went to Stamford Bridge to beat Chelsea 2-0 in midweek. Everyone beats Chelsea, we know, these days. But the performance Brentford put up, they didn't concede many chances, and when they had their own chances, even though they didn't have much of the possession, they were clinical with 2 goals that they scored, and they are 1.70. Nottingham Forest have been shocking, diabolically away from home. They have lost. They've lost 14 out of their 16, something like 12 out of their 16 away games, and that is not a good look. At 5.25, I'm going to go against them. I will be backing Brentford at 1.70 to win this game. And if you're looking at the correct score market, for Brentford to win 2-1 is 8.00, and 2-0 is 12.00. I'll be fasting the 2-0 victory, because Forest don't score goals away from home. They've been poor, as I said. If this was at the City ground, this will have been an entirely different ball game. They're shocking away from home.
They are shocking away from home. And like you said, they were the worst away record in the Premier League this season and have suffered 6 consecutive top fly away defeats. You're not really going to be feeling good if you're a Nottingham Forest fan. However, I remember against Liverpool last week, travelling to Anfield, respectively, one of the hardest places to go in the Premier League. They rose to that occasion. They did lose there, but they had to come back from behind twice. So maybe that might just change a little, but a switch in the mentality and then the minds of the Nottingham Forest players. But then it's not helped by the fact that Forest have only won 3 of the last 16 away league matches against Brentford. Remember, these two teams, they came head-to-head and locked horns many times in the Championship. So I think you're correct
One
there.
thing, yeah, I know you said they lost 3-2 away from home, but it's still a loss. There's no moral victory here. There's no prizes for coming second in a 2-horse race. It's nothing. So they left Anfield with 0 points, another loss, considered 3 goals, irrespective of this fact they scored 2 goals. I will not be backing them to win at Brentford.
Okay, well, there we go. Our betting expert has spoken on that game, and I think you are very correct. Like you said, no prizes for coming second. The other game to cover then today is Brighton v Wolves. This is a Brighton team. As we said, I've spoken about a little bit on the show already, about how maybe the Wembley defeat and the manner of that defeat will affect the mentality of this team and the way they run into this season. How did that defeat affected the odds, and are they actually favourites against Wolves?
Oh, I was at Wembley last weekend, of course, when Brighton took United to 120 minutes. And Brighton, for large parts of the game, were slightly the better side. And it was surprising to see them lose 3-1 to Nottingham Forest in midweek. But perhaps the 120 minutes, not many of those players have played 120 minutes in recent weeks or months or even years. They're not used to playing 120 minutes on a big pitch like Wembley, and that could have, at a big and dry pitch like Wembley. So that could have been what affected them in midweek. And this time around, they are hosting a Wolves team who are informed themselves. They've had good results in recent weeks and they've climbed to 13th position. The odds reflect that as well. Brighton at 1.53 and Wolves at 6.00. Obviously, the bookies feel it's time for Brighton to get back to winning ways at 1.53. It draws at 4.33 and Wolves, as I said, at 6.00. It's a tough one to call. You don't know whether Wolves have got their flip-flops on now on the basis that, well, we're on our summer break already and we're almost safe. We've got 37 points, which in reality, they're almost safe. I don't think anybody's going to catch up with Wolves. But they will want to make sure, and a draw at 4.33 seems the most appealing bet. Personally, I think Brighton should win. Brighton have got the better players, but still they've not had enough rest from the midweek. And today is Saturday. I would have expected a game to be tomorrow, but it's today. So they have to, of course, they have to play. And at 4.33, I think a draw might be the best option. Under 1.5 goals is meaning there will not be more than 1 goal in the game. So one team to win 1-0, it will be 4.20. And over 4.5 goals, which people expect both teams to score, will be 1.22. That's not a market to get rich on. That's not a market to delve in. You don't get rich backing anyone at 1.22. But if you want to go over 2.5 goals, is 2.15. If you decide to go crazy and you think Brighton will go back to their mesmerizing best and win convincingly, 4-0 is 19.00, 4-1 is 21.00, and the Brighton 4-2 win is 41.00. And if you fancy Wolves to win at 4-0, to win 4-0 is 251.00. I don't think that will happen, but who knows? Both teams to score, by the way, yes is 1.80 and a no is 2.00.
You'd expect both teams to score. I mean, Brighton especially, because they do score. But Wolves that were at a price now of 5.50 now, because obviously these betting, this is a live market.
Prices have changed. Okay, as the last time I checked, they were 6.00. So maybe the team news has reflected that now.
Definitely. So, I mean, like we said, these odds are always subject to change. So they literally changed the minute you spoke, Io. But I wanted to put, that's a very good price, surely, for Wolves, because Wolves, they're on really good form on 3 of their past 4 Premier League games. So that is a very good price to get Wolves at.
They don't let in so many goals. They don't score many themselves, but they don't let in so many goals. But you will think they will score 1 goal today. And Brighton, apart from at Wembley, of course, when they didn't score against United and they went to penalty shootouts, you would expect Brighton to score. Danny Welbeck, It's Evan Ferguson. I don't know if he's back in the starting 11 today. If you just give me 10 seconds, I'll check that for you.
He is not. He is injured, I
No,
think.
so he's still injured. So Evan Ferguson is still out. Brighton do miss a lot of chances. It's been the problem over the years, even when Graham Potter was there. They play all the lovely football, all the lovely approach play, but putting it back at the back of the net. Danny Welbeck is their main centre forward and an 18-year-old kid. So that speaks volumes of why they struggle in front of goal. Imagine if they had a decent centre forward. I'm not saying Ferguson is not decent, but he's a young, upcoming player. And Welbeck is a player at the end of his career. So it's not going to improve now, is it, really? But
Who knows?
Brighton
Who
still
knows?
struggles, and they're in a good position in the league. Brighton to win 1.53, I don't know. It's a difficult one to call.
It is. But thank you very much, Io, for your time. As always, it's going to be a fascinating game. The markets are going to be changing. But David, you've said your word. We've seen what you said. And let's see if that pays off. Thank you very much, Io. We will see you tomorrow. A pleasure as always.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
No worries. See you later. Well, before we go to Nigeria and Femi in a team, that is coming in 2 minutes. The Bundesliga games are about 20 minutes into the kickoff already. No goals in the respective games that we are covering. We're going to go to Jamie McKeague first. We're going to go to Leipzig v Hoffenheim because there's been chances for both teams in that game. Who's most likely to score there, Jamie?
RB Leipzig, without a shadow of a doubt, they have been absolutely brilliant so far. They've been moving the ball quickly, they've been very direct, and they should be ahead. They've had 2 key chances so far, one for Konrad Laimer and one for Timo Werner. Konrad Laimer had a great chance outside the box. It was a really nice right-footed finish towards the left, or the bottom left-hand corner, but it forced a stunning save from Oliver Baumann, getting down well to his left-hand side and pushing the ball out for a corner. And Timo Werner, who's been a threat so far, had a really good chance to make it double-digit for his goal tally this season, and Kunku let it off to him inside the box, but his shot flew way over the bar. It was reminiscent of his time at Chelsea. It was an absolute sitter that he should be at least getting on target. Leipzig and Marco Rose will be happy so far. They've been playing some really good football, like I said, but before halftime they have to show for it. We are now 21 minutes in, and it's still RB Leipzig 0, Hoffenheim 0.
To Gage Morgan next to the capital, where Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen are both 0-0 as well.
0-0 here, and it's Union Berlin who are really pressing the issue. Jordan Tibiachu had a great chance, just a free header at the near post, which he put wide and seems to have injured himself. He's trying to run it off. We'll update with that when we come back. But yeah, 20 minutes gone here in the capital. Union 0, Bayern Leverkusen 0.
A disappointing lack of goals as well in the Bundesliga, because it's 0-0 across all of the games in the capital, and across the German leagues as well. Crystal Palace, West Ham beat Crystal Palace. It was 4-3 there as well, the full-time result. That means now Crystal Palace move to the magic 40-point mark. Which means they're probably all but safe this season. As of West Ham, well, they're not that safe, and it's a real disappointment. But now it's Femi and the team.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM, powered by NairaBet, with Josh Bailey.
Just over 2 minutes till the Premier League games start, but we've had a lot of action in the Bundesliga so far, and we have a first goal of the afternoon.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is Leipzig that have taken the lead against Hoffenheim. Jamie McKeag, as he was reporting, said in the first 20 minutes that Leipzig been all over that Hoffenheim defence, and they have finally broke the deadlock, and they have finally found a way through. It is Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0 at the Red Bull Arena. Across the rest of the Bundesliga games, well, we are yet to see a goal, apart from in the Frankfurt and the Stuttgart game. So really, there's been a lot of goals. It's Frankfurt 1, Augsburg 0, and Stuttgart 1, Mönchengladbach 0. Stuttgart, if they manage to hold on to the 3 points, well, that's bad news for Hoffenheim, because they will drag Hoffenheim back in. They'll drag Hoffenheim back into the relegation scrap. That'll move them on to 28 points and only 1 point behind Hoffenheim. That means there'll be 1 point inside that relegation top 3, and they could slip into 16th place, which in the Bundesliga is a relegation playoff place with the third place finisher in Bundesliga 2. So Hoffenheim, they really need to get their act together, and they really need to find a way back into that game. As mentioned, Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0. A rest across of the scores then as well. Well, with 1 minute until the Premier League games start. We said that the Crystal Palace and West Ham game, that ended 4-3. Crystal Palace all but confirming their Premier League safety. And Brentford v Nottingham Forest, that kicks off in 1 minute at 3 o'clock. And Brighton v Wolves at 3 o'clock respectively as well. Across the other Bundesliga game, then, we also have Union Berlin v Bayer Leverkusen. I was going to go to Gage Morgan, but Jamie McKeag is here to give news of the goal.
And it's the RB Leipzig star man. He's been missing for ages. He actually hasn't scored this calendar year, but Christopher Nkunku gets his goal, and it is a really well-taken goal as well. And it's exactly what RB Leipzig have been trying to do all game, and that's get in behind. Emil Forsberg has been a threat all game. Tries a lovely through ball. Christopher Nkunku is 1v1, centre of the goal, and a left-footed into the bottom right-hand corner. Sets RB Leipzig ahead. 29 minutes gone, and as it stands, RB Leipzig are in a Champions League spot. The RB Leipzig fans will be happy with that, but they're also happy to have their star man back once again. 1-0 RB Leipzig, 29 minutes gone.
That's Christopher Nkunku that will be joining Premier League side Chelsea. Maybe we'll stay at Leipzig because they're doing a lot better at Chelsea at the moment. Chelsea are nowhere near a Champions League pace, and they're slowly going towards that relegation scrap and that relegation spot. We've had 2 games kick off at the Amex and at the Stadium of Light between Brighton and Wolves, and Sunderland v Watford. We'll be the reporters at those grounds respectively in a minute, but we're going to go to Gage Morgan now. I was going to go to, before the news of the goal, with Jamie McKeag. How's it going there, Gage? Because it's still 0-0 currently by Leverkusen and the Union Berlin. This is going to be a really tight game, so really no surprise that both sides are yet to draw first blood in that time.
Yes, Josh, it's been a tense game. There's been a potential massive blow to Leverkusen fans. Look away now. It appears that Jeremy Frimpong's went down injured. We think he might try to run it off. He got slipped through. It was a great overlapping run by him. He went to cross the ball in, and he seems to have went over his ankle. The medical team assist him. He's playing on now. Leverkusen fans will have their fingers crossed he can stay on. Union Berlin, they seem to have their backup at least. They're really playing good football. They're trying to get in behind. It's Urs Fischer football 101, really. Get the ball in behind, run at it. But 30 minutes gone here. Union 0, Leverkusen 0.
That Leipzig goal though isn't good news for Union Berlin, because now that means that they are only 2 points off of a Champions League spot and dropping into 5th place. So they really need a goal, and they need a goal now, because if they do get a goal, they'll move to 3 points behind Borussia Dortmund, and there could be a title coming to the capital just 4 years after they were promoted. It's an absolute fairy tale story, and I can imagine it's what most neutrals want across the globe. And in the Bundesliga, we have kickoff then across all our Premier League games. We're going to start at the Amex between Brighton. Matt Smith's covering that one. 3 minutes for that time. Matt, what's the game shaping up to look like? It's too early to tell.
Well, I think both sides are, it's very early on in the game. I think Brighton are looking to try and get back into winning ways. I think, obviously, after the terrible performance against Nottingham Forest, and after the heartbreak of the FA, the semi-final, it's with 2 or 3 minutes in here, Wolves have actually had probably the better start. They've come out of the traps very, very fast. I think they want to try and get their Premier League status secured for next season. Brighton, almost a bit shell-shocked with a couple of sort of half chances from Wolves, really pressing quite high. There's not many sort of attacking players out on the pitch for Wolves. There's a lot of sort of central midfielders that are maybe having to do a job out wide. Pedro Neto seems to be the only sort of out-and-out wide player. But we're 2 minutes in here. It's still Brighton 0, Wolves 0.
Matt, wolves, like their name says, after the animal, the wolf, they hunt for prey, they hunt for the weak, and they prey on maybe the ones that are less fortunate than them in the animal chain. And will they be looking at Brighton today as a bit of wounded prey? The fact that they lost at Wembley, they'll be feeling a little bit sorry for themselves, maybe not their confidence a little bit. Will they kind of smell blood in the water? Will they kind of see an opportunity to pounce today and get the 3 points that will all but secure their safety in the Premier League this season?
The fans that have travelled from Wolves to the Amex today, I think the Wolves fans will be looking for their team to pounce, as you say. In a way, it's a perfect opportunity to get to that 40-point mark, as you said earlier on. They want to try and get those points sooner rather than later. They don't want to be pulling it down to the final day. I think Wolves have to get a job done. They can't be sort of slow with it. They have to come out the traps, and they have done just that. It's going to be an interesting game at the Amex here. It's a lovely day. Brighton just 2 minutes ago just had Undav down receiving some treatment, but nothing much to comment on at the moment. We're 3 minutes in, still Brighton 0, Wolves 0.
Thank you very much, Matt. We're going to go to Jack Hesson next, and we're going to go to Sunderland, to the Stadium and Light, which they know a win today will all but secure their playoff hopes. Tony Mowbray spoke about the pressure that comes with fighting for a promotion spot and a playoff spot. How have they started in the opening 5 minutes there, Jack?
Yeah, they've started really lively, Josh. They've controlled most of the possession in the opening 3 minutes of the game. They just had the first shot there. Space opened up for Ekwa on the edge of the area. He took the shot, and it was a comfortable save enough for Daniel Batman and goals for Watford. But yeah, they're looking really lively. They're trying to get the ball down the right-hand side to get the ball to Patrick Roberts, to Diallo, the real flair players in the side. And yeah, exactly the kind of start that they would have expected or would have hoped for in such a big game for them.
On Watford, I was going to ask you, Jack, before we had to disappear and give update on the West Ham goal. I mean, Watford are an absolute mess, aren't they? A few weeks ago, we heard their manager, Chris Wilder, speak about Watford, the most selfish group of players he's ever worked for. And I guess that sort of mentality that you're able to creep into a side that's had 3 managers in one season, has had countless managers over the past few seasons. Do you worry for Watford and the direction of the club?
I think so. I think the position they're in at the moment really does not reflect the state that they're in. They're in a much worse state than 13th for the Championship. That's for certain. I mean, 3 managers this season. Wilder has had such a poor start compared to Bilic. So, I mean, in all likelihood, if they lose the next couple of games, start the next season poorly, then they might end up another manager down. So, yeah, they really need to try and get their act together. I think they just need a stable manager for starters.
They do need a stable manager because they can do the world of good. And Brighton have showed how much a stable manager helps, and they have taken the lead at the Amex.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Hangover, what hangover? It's Dennis Undav with the goal that puts them 1-0 up in that game. Wolves would have been hoping they would have been a bit of wounded prey and the Seagulls wouldn't be flying as high. However, Undav has put them in the lead, has catapulted them into the air and make sure their wings are flapping because it is Brighton 1, Wolves 0, an early goal, and an important early goal that will settle the nerves at the Amex Stadium. As I said, Dennis Undav with the goal. Brighton 1, Wolves 0. For now, though, we're going to head over to the G-Tech Stadium and to London between Brentford and Nottingham Forest. 5 minutes gone there, Patrick Norrett. How's the opening stages gone?
They're just filling each other around, Josh. Nothing really happening except from a lofted cross by Rico Henry from Brentford, unsuccessful. But at the moment, it looks like Brentford are the ones trying to get the first goal first. And what's happening is Nottingham Forest going to try to hit them on the break. With 5.5 gone, it's still Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
Do you think Nottingham Forest will... I mean, before I come to you, Patrick, there is VAR at Brighton v Wolves. They had an early goal. However, it might be wiped out completely. We show and we consistently see every week how much VAR has an impact in these games, in these ties. and it could be about to hit Brighton where it hurts. So their goal, Dennis Undav was the goal, could be whopped out early. We'll keep an eye on that one for you. As for Brentford and Nottingham Forest, and as for Nottingham Forest, Patrick, do you think they'll continue to play how they play all season? Steve Cooper clearly has an identity, or do you think as they go down the stretch, they may like to play a bit more conservative, a bit more counter-attacking, as you were saying?
I think what they're trying to do here is basically they know they're away from home and Brentford's going to have most of the play. They know how Brentford plays. So what they're trying to do is get the ball and keep it for a while and invite Brentford onto them so they can find a space. So that's the gameplay at the moment I'm looking at. So with 6 gone, still Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
And the goal has been given at Brighton. And Matt Smith can tell us about the goal that sees Brighton take the lead.
Well, I said that the teams were starting slow. The teams were trading blows. But, Brighton take the lead. It started on the left, as a matter of fact. Stupian's put a nice cross over the Wolves defence. It's gone all the way back, but it's gone as far as Joel Veltman. And Joel Veltman's put a bit of a poor cross in. Danny Welbeck had to sort of manoeuvre his feet around the right way. He's flicked it towards goal, but Dennis Undav is inches onside, and he flicks it past Jose Sarr to make it 1-0 Brighton and Hove Albion after 7 minutes.
A really interesting start for Brighton is the fact that they're winners in 9 of their Premier League home games in the month of April, drawing each of their past 5. That's a stat and a half, isn't it, really? But they're looking to put those bad omens to bed, and Dennis Undav is doing that correctly. The goal is onside, as Matt said, described there. They're 1-0 up in that game, and that is going to set them on the right path towards 3 points. 3 points, that is key, because if they get the win today, they will climb up the table. They'll go up to 55 points, and that will see them go all the way into 5th place this season. So we'll see how it goes for Brighton. But it's 1-0 there, and we'll tell you a side that didn't win 1-0 in midweek on Wednesday. It was Arsenal. They lost 4-1 to Manchester City. It was a disastrous result for them, a result that might all but say goodbye to their title aspirations this season. And this is what Arteta had to say about the defeat.
Well, the analysis is clear. The better team won the game. They were probably at their best, especially in the first half, and we were nowhere near our level. And when that happens, the gap becomes too big. And in the first 30 minutes, all the basic things that you have to do against an exceptional team, in terms of competing, in terms of win doers, in terms of understanding what the game requires, we didn't do it, and we got punished, and we could have been punished even more. And we are where we are with 5 games to go. And those players deserve a lot of credit to be 9.5 months against this team being where we are. And there's still 5 games to play. 5. And I've been almost 22 years in this country. I've seen a lot of things, and I know how much it shifts from game to game. There are not 2 equal games in this league. And first of all, we have to lift our players because they suffered tonight, and they played against an exceptional team. They know that, but we are an exceptional team as well. But today we weren't at the races at the level that it was required to win the game.
And we're going to bring in our resident football expert, John Kane, who's getting a familiar voice on this show now, coming in and giving his football opinions. John, welcome. As for Manchester City and Arsenal, it was it was close. It was nowhere near close throughout the whole game. Manchester City really did lay the sword to the Gunners. And I really asked the question, really, was it a little bit misleading? Did Man City just play really, really well? Or did Arsenal just didn't turn up and did play badly? What were your takeaways from it?
I think the actual game sort of reflect the difference between both sides. Manchester City, they're in one of their own, aren't they, at the moment? Not just in England, but in Europe in general. Their performance has been magnificent, and we spoke before, and I spoke before about the depth they have. I mean, when you take off people like De Bruyne and Stones and Gundogan, and then you put on someone like Mahrez and Foden and Alvarez, what kind of depth have you got? It's fantastic depth, isn't it? Whereas something that is Arsenal been lacking is that. And I said it last week. You take Odegaard, there's no one there to replace him. That's how big teams need to win the leagues. They need a bit of depth. So if anything goes wrong, and with that, and you rotate the players, something that Arsenal lacks this season, but it's been a fantastic season so far for Arsenal. Obviously, they're waiting for Manchester City to slip, which I really can't see. I mean, if you look at their Arsenal's fixtures, They're not easy. They're playing Chelsea away. Yeah, like you said, everyone's beating Chelsea at the moment. But they're playing away to Newcastle, who are fantastic form. They're at home to Brighton, Forest. Of course, they're fighting for relegation, and so is Wolves. So more or less, probably the safest game in a way are probably Chelsea and Wolves, which is the last game of the season. But as far as Man City is concerned, you look at their fixtures, and they're not any easier. But it's relatively easier. They're playing teams like they're playing Fulham, of course. Tomorrow they've got West Ham at home, Leeds at home, Everton away, and
John, I'm going to have to interrupt you here because it is a red card for Diego Costa, and Brighton have just taken the lead at Wolverhampton.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is a red card for Diego Costa, but it seems like that red card has been ruled out. But either way, the Brighton goal stands, and it's a really quick start for Brighton and Robert De Zerbi's team. It's Pascal Gross with the goal, and they now lead 2-0. Wolves, well, they're going to be like a team in headlights. Came into this game maybe expecting a seagull team, as we said, that weren't flying as high, but they are soaring at the moment in this game. A really fast start, putting all those omens, putting all those demons of last week's heartbreak at Wembley on penalties to bed. And it is Brighton 2, Wolves 0 at the Amex. A brilliant, a fantastic, a dream start for the Sussex team. Brighton 2, Wolves 0. And we will be with Matt Smith in a short while. Before that, though, I think it's time to get some updates around the Bundesliga, and we'll go to Jamie McKeague because Leipzig, they're still winning at Hoffenheim. Have they taken the game with the scruff of the neck and looking good to get that second goal there, Jamie?
Definitely, RB Leipzig have been all over Hoffenheim, and I did expect Hoffenheim would react after going 1-0 down, especially with relegation potentially on the horizon. You would expect Hoffenheim to go for it, but it's RB Leipzig that are going for broke here. Timo Werner and Christopher Nkunku had two massive opportunities. It was actually Hoffenheim who defended really well. Timo Werner had a shot inside the box that you would think if the defender doesn't block it, it's definitely going in the back of the net. I don't think Baumann gets anywhere near it. Christopher Nkunku had a header that floated just over the bar, but RB Leipzig have been knocking the ball about brilliantly. The possession in the middle of the park, the speed they're playing at, their direct moves on the left-hand side and the right-hand side have been absolutely brilliant, and they're a joy to watch so far, and they deserve to 1-0 up. We are just about to hit the 45-minute mark here at the Red Bull Arena. It's RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
Really should be no surprise that they're playing that game with such confidence. They've won 10 of their 14 matches at the Red Bull Arena, and they're also unbeaten in 6 home meetings with Hoffenheim. They play fantastically at home in Leipzig, and they play fantastically at home against Hoffenheim. So really should be no surprise about the way they're playing that game. For now, though, we're going to go to Matt Smith to tell us about the goal for Brighton this season, 2-0 up at the Amex.
Well, it's a fantastic 12 opening minutes for Brighton, but it's a terrible start for Wolves. I have to say, Danny Welbeck is working extremely hard going back, but it's ended up with Nelson Semedo sleeping somewhere further up the field, and Danny Welbeck has found Julio Enciso. He's charged down the left wing. He's got acres of space in front of him, and it's a simple little cross, a little side pass into the pathway of Pascal Gross, who's just guided it very calmly past Jose Sarr. It's a good finish with his left foot to make it Brighton 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0 after 12 minutes.
Matt, I mean, how was this result been able to happen? You said it's been a slow start for both teams when we spoke about 5 minutes gone in that tie. Have Brighton just taken their chances, showing that quality in front of goal and in their build-up play that we've seen all season?
I think so. I think Wolves, don't look very good in the build-up at all. They're having maybe a couple of half chances here and there when Brighton fall asleep. Maybe they're a couple of their sort of second-team sort of players or rotation players are coming in and starting. They've still got the Matoma still on the bench, Casido on the bench, McAllister on the bench. They haven't got their first-choice keeper, and they're still able to beat a Wolverhampton side on the up. They're beating them 2-0 already. So it's a difficult watch for Wolves, really, if you're a Wolves fan. Wolves have not got much build-up play, like I said. It's 14 minutes gone. It's Brighton 2-0 up.
Really, really tough for Wolves at the moment, and really no surprise. It's been tough on the way. It's been tough all the way for them this season. Remember, they've only won 2 victories in their last 16 away league fixtures. They really don't do well on the road, and when there's an omen like that, when that's in your head, it's really tough to overcome that. Talking about omens and talking about pressure on your head, we've got a real shock result at the Stadium of Light because Watford have just taken the lead.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
A game that was painted as the one which could take Sunderland to the promised land and to the Premier League. They've been phenomenal so far. They're on 3 wins and 4 draws since March. That has put them towards playoff contention. However, Watford, we spoke about the pressure. We heard Tony Mowbray speak about the pressure that this playoff and the automatic promotions can have on a team, and it's seeing this Sunderland team maybe wilter in the opening 20 minutes because at home they have fallen behind. It's Kabasele with the goal that sees the Hornets sting the Black Cats and puts them 1-0 up in that tie. But we saw it a few weeks ago, Watford going 1-0 up against QPR, against Reading, ended up losing that game. That's what sparked the conversation, the damning interview by Chris Wilder. So let's see if Watford have learnt from that result and can hold on too little, too late, though, for Watford, isn't it, Jack Essen?
Yeah, potential is for Watford, but what a start to the game for them. After being a bit on the back foot, they've managed to make any possession they've had in this game count, and it all comes from Sunderland. Slack play at the back results in a corner for Watford. The great delivery into the box, and Kabasele's there to power it into the back of the net, and Watford, as you said, take a surprise lead. They've been on the back foot, but they have looked dangerous on the counter as well. A double blow for Sunderland. There's news coming out that Coventry are beating Birmingham City by 1-0 as well, and that again affects potentially the playoff spot. They need to try and get their act together, Josh.
This is going to be really, really key, isn't it, Jack, and how they respond in this game, isn't it? You expect them to rise to the occasion and respond here?
I think so. I think they've started really lively, and if they keep up the momentum levels, then they've got goals in them. Yeah, this game isn't over yet.
The game is definitely not going to be over. Let's hope it isn't. There we go. 1-0 to Sunderland in that game. Sorry, 1-0 to Watford in that game. Around the scores in Europe as well. It's 0-0 between Brentford and Nottingham Forest. Brighton are beating Wolves 2-0. As Jack Hesson reported there, Sunderland losing to Watford 1-0 and Coventry who are beating Brighton 1-0, which now does mean that Coventry climb into 5th place, and that drops Sunderland outside of the playoff spot into 7th. This shows how crucial and how cruel the playoff race can be, and how it's all about margins, but it is this close in the season, at the business end of the season, it is all about margins. The halftime whistles were blown around the grounds. It's FC Cologne 0, Freiburg 0 in the Bundesliga, Frankfurt 1, Augsburg 0, RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0, Stuttgart 1, Mönchengladbach 0, and Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0. We will be with those teams, respect. We will be with our reporters, Jamie McKeek and Gage Morgan, to display our halftime reports there. And coming up in the Liga right now, it's Elche 0, Rayo Vallecano 0. 4 minutes gone in that game. There's goals everywhere. There's early goals on Football Live. But what else can we expect? Because it's the best show in the world.
Our partners at NairaBet are back with another special offer. Get 500 Naira free every time a Nigerian player scores. With 41 goals combined this season, how many will Mofi, Chukwueze, Iheanacho, Iwobi and Ndidi net you? When they score, so do you. To qualify, head over to NairaBet and make sure you include the following games in your ACCA. Villarreal versus Celta Vigo, Troyes versus Nice, Leicester versus Everton. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more details. ACCA must be placed by midnight tonight. Minimum stake required is 500 Naira. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly.
Football Live is back tomorrow from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Fulham take on Manchester City.
Fulham come from Championship and the season have been amazing.
And Liverpool.
But much more important that we win the game. And
against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM.
It is drama you will not want to miss.
Well, against all the odds, Bournemouth have taken the lead and not a single shot on target up to this point.
Yeah, it was a James Ward-Prowse classic. It just kills it beautifully.
Well, it's been absolute chaos.
Yes, Josh. Football's a cruel game. You can have all the possession you want, but if you don't put the ball at the back of the net.
It was, again, Cade and Son, like the good old days.
But this show never disappoints.
Yes, well, it's Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 1 here, and it's Eberechi Eze who's got the goal.
Oh my word, Josh. I cannot believe how Phil Foden has not made this 2-0.
Yes, Barry, it's a second goal for Borussia Dortmund, and the Dice Watch go on are running away with it now.
Football Live, the preview show with myself, Barry Swain, returns on Monday, exclusive to Brilla FM. It's where I take a look back at all of the action in today's show and tomorrow's show on Brilla FM and Football Live. And we also hear from the managers, we hear from the players, we take a look at who's going to win the leagues, who's going into Europe, and who will get relegated. It's all on Football Live, the preview show, this Monday, exclusive on Brilla FM.
Today's show is powered by Hollandia and Chivita.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brilla FM with Football Live.
But it always starts with us.
All the key action from around Europe's top leagues.
Wow. Just wow.
You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM, powered by NairaBet. Have your say on today's action and interact with Brilla FM on Twitter at Brilla FM 889, on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM, and on Instagram, Brilla FM 889.
A ferocious...
Welcome back to Football Live on Brilla FM.
A ferocious start to Football Live with goals flying in at the Amex. Brighton leading 2-0 against Wolves. And then we've got Brentford and Nottingham Forest at 0-0 currently. No goals there so far, Patrick Nardette. A little bit disappointing, or is the 0-0 draw a little bit deceiving?
No, I think both sides are still feeling each other out, because just before you came to me, what's happening is that Brentford are keeping good possession, and a long ball was pumped forward. And Umbroma got hold of it on the right-hand side, cut inside his left foot, took a shot and the goalie saved it. And it seems to me that they're not really taking their time when to press and where to press. They're quite happy for Nottingham Forest to have the ball in the final third. But when they come into midfield, that's when they press. And with regard to what Nottingham Forest are doing, when Brentford has got it, they're just sitting back and trying to hit them on the break. But Brentford are not hitting those long balls because they don't want to give away possession, because they know if Forest gets the ball, they're very good at holding on to it. So it's quite, it's not you play, we play yet, but it's a cat and mouse game. My new phrase. It's a cat and mouse game at the moment. So with 23 gone, still Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
A cat and mouse tie at the GTEC Stadium between Brentford and Nottingham Forest. Not a cat and mouse tie in the Bundesliga, in the Red Bull Arena between RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim. Leipzig have dominated Hoffenheim in the first half. And here is Jamie McKeague with the halftime report.
Thank you very much, Josh. And it is all been RB Leipzig, and they definitely deserve to be ahead. And they could be further ahead. Timo Werner has had 2 really good opportunities, and Kunku had a header that flashed over the bar. But a couple of star performers for RB Leipzig. I think Emil Forsberg has been very good. Timo Werner, yes, he's missed a couple of opportunities, but his pace in behind is always such a threat. Christopher Nkunku, we know how good he is. There's a reason he's coming to the Premier League in the summer. He is absolutely brilliant, and he has been so far this half. But if we take a quick look at the numbers, take a look at the stats, you can see why RB Leipzig are ahead. They have 1.17 expected goals compared to Hoffenheim 0.08. They've had 62% of the ball, 11 goal attempts, 3 on target. They've completed almost triple the amount of passes that Hoffenheim have. They've been playing some really good football. Marco Rose would be really delighted with the football they've been playing. It's fast, it's direct. Hoffenheim have defended well at times, but in the midfield, I'm looking at their midfield right now, Angelino, Greiger and Kaderbeck, and you've got to ask questions because RB Leipzig are finding it so easy. The counter-pressing system that Hoffenheim are trying to play, it isn't working, so I think... apologies, Matarazzo, forgot his name for a second. Matarazzo, he has to resort to something else in the second half. He has to switch it up, or RB Leipzig will make it 3 and 4. As it stands right now, with Stuttgart being 1-0 up, Hoffenheim are just a point off the playoff spots. So it's halftime here at the Red Bull Arena. RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
It's fast and ferocious in Germany. It's fast and ferocious in Brighton because they are now 3-0 up.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is the Seagulls who are soaring to new heights today, and they are absolutely thumping Wolverhampton. They have got no answer to the football the Brighton are displaying this afternoon. It's ferocious and it's fast, but it's an absolute brilliant and an absolute pleasure to watch for Matt Smith at the Amex Stadium. I wish I was there. I'm not. I'm hosting this show for you today, and we're delivering the goals for you today. We will be with Matt Smith shortly, and we'll go with Matt Smith now to tell us about the goal.
I'll tell you something now. It is a fantastic strike. It's postage stamp stuff right in the top corner from Pascal Gross, but it starts with Julio Enciso, who is, the wonder man at the moment, the opening 26 minutes. Julio Enciso has cut in from the left. He set it back to Pascal Gross. Pascal Gross has sort of flicked it up. It's a bit of a poor touch, but he absolutely wellies it, and he wellies it straight past Jose Sarr, the top corner. We're 26 minutes played here, and Wolves look done for. It's Brighton 3, Wolves 0.
How mesmerising is it to watch Brighton? Because we know when they're playing this form, we know when they're playing at the level they are, they could be anyone in the league, and it must be an absolute pleasure to watch, Matt Smith.
It is. It's De Zerbi's got them playing some fantastic football. There are people that say that Potter had an influence just before he left, but De Zerbi's carried it on. It's still a difficult job to take over from someone that was so successful as Potter was. And this is the Brighton side that, like I've said before, I'm missing Casido. He's on the bench. Matoma's on the bench. Robert Sanchez is on the bench. It's not their full strength side. A word on Wolves. They look shoddy. They look terrible in this opening half an hour. They haven't had a sniff, and Brighton have just taken their chances very, very well. It's of course this could get very ugly. With 27 minutes in, it's 3-0 to Brighton. Wolves, have had one chance earlier with Pedro Neto cutting in from the right. He set it back to Mateus Nunes. He had to force a good save from Jason Steele, but it's nothing worth mentioning in terms of the 3 Brighton goals. It's a difficult watch for Wolves fans.
It really is. Wolves, I mean, what else can you expect, really? Maybe like we're saying that maybe Brighton wouldn't be hitting the heights due to their defeat against Wembley, but this Brighton team, as I said, on their day, they are probably one of the best teams, the third best team in this league. The form undergoing Potter probably harnessed them a little bit, but De Zerbi has taken this team under their control, and today, if they win, it's a club record 15th top flight win of the season. Would give them 52 points and would also equal their best tally of the highest division. The only thing that's going to stop them from achieving those record is a Wolves comeback. By the way, Matt Smith is describing that game, feels like Wolves are limping themselves and really don't have an answer to the way Brighton are unleashing the shackles on this team, attacking the Wolves net and really putting the hammer to Wolves, shall we say. 3-0 there. We need goals in the Bundesliga, and we need goals between Union Berlin and only need goals between Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen, because we build this game up to be maybe one of the best games of the season, but feels like it's not really living up to those heights, Cage Morgan.
Yes, Josh, it's been a tactical game, I would say, in the first half. As Jose Mourinho said, the team who has the ball are more likely to make mistakes, and that seems to be Union Berlin's thinking here. Really dominant possession game from Bayer Leverkusen. I think they've had 70%. They're moving the ball left and right, but they're making mistakes, and Union are forcing mistakes, and as soon as they do, it's in behind. Sheraldo Bakker, Juranovic, and Roussillon, who's had a great first half, they're in behind. No real chances of note, unfortunately. Sheraldo Bakker had a shot 5 minutes in that didn't really threaten Hudrisky, and Jeremy Frimpong has kept playing. The injury hasn't kept him off, so they'll be looking to get the ball to him and Moussa Diaby in the second half. But we're at half-time here. Union 0 and Leverkusen 0. Massive game in the Bundesliga, though.
A tactical display, and like you said, really feels like both teams, there's so much to lose for both teams that maybe they're playing a little bit scared, maybe by Leverkusen or Union Berlin, not really wanting to take too many risks. And like we said, maybe we will see the shackles be unleashed in the second half, and both teams really go for it, because both teams really need 3 points for their season, to take their season to that next level, and to maybe achieve the dreams that become possible through the good form of themselves this year. That's you all up to date then with the goals at Brighton, with the Bundesliga half times. We're going to quickly head though to Patrick Norret, because I've heard from him a little bit, get an update between Brentford and Nottingham Forest. Patrick, how is it going there? We said it's both teams really feeling each other out. Is that still the theme of the game so far?
Yeah, it's still the case. I think what's happening is that when Brentford basically got the large share of possession, but Nottingham Forest are not coming out, so they're not going to press them, so there's space behind to play. So it's this very patient build up by Brentford, trying to open them up. And the way they can actually do it is playing wide to get corners, which they're very good at. And also both teams playing these long throws. I haven't seen them for quite a long time. They're also hitting the ball down the channels to get long throws and to throw it from near the corner flag into the box. So at the moment, it's still even Stevens with 30 minutes gone. It's Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
Before the ad break, we heard that Watford had taken the lead against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. Is that still the case there, Jack Essen?
It is still the case, still Sunderland 0, Watford 1, half an hour played, and to be honest, Watford have been slowly coming into this game in terms of dominance. I mentioned how Sunderland had so much control over the game. The Watford goal was a bit against the run of play, but really Watford are coming into this game and getting a grip on it more. They really should have went 2-0 up when right back Ryan Edwards shot from distance, not saved well by Anthony Patterson. The rebound falls so kindly to Kenyon Davies. He's got a bit to do, but really he should at least be hitting the target, and he fluffs the shot and it goes wide. That's been the two best chances of the game, the goal and that opportunity just there. Sunderland really need to start getting some clear shots. Most of their chances have been from range. Half an hour played, still Sunderland 0, Watford 1.
This is a Sunderland team not to worry about, though, because last week the Tony Mowbray side were trailing at half-time to West Brom at the Hawthorns. They lost. They ended up the 1-0. They ended up winning that game 2-1. 3 points took them in to the playoff position. So maybe don't worry, Sunderland fans, if your team are losing 1-0 in that game at half-time, because if last week's anything to go by, they will come back in that tie. The scores around Europe then currently, well, there's no goals between Brentford and Nottingham Forest, as Patrick Narrett reported, and Brighton and Wolves is still 3-0. Coventry is still beating Birmingham 1-0. Bristol City and Burnley are drawing 0-0. Hull are beating Swansea 1-0. Reading and Wigan are drawing 0-0. Sheffield United and Preston. Sheffield United, who secured promotion back to the Premier League last in midweek after a win against West Brom, well, they're drawing 0-0 against Preston, and the same is going for Stoke and QPR. Watford, they're beating Sunderland 1-0. Well, Sunderland, if they do this game, they're going to be keeping their eye out for the game at 5:30. West Brom v Norwich, a humongous playoff clash, one that will have ripple effects across the league. Let's see how that one game's at 5:30. Coming up at 4 o'clock as well, it's Lille v AC Ajaccio. That one's going to be covered there by Leon Jones. Sorry, not by Leon Jones, by Matthew Key in that game. That's coming up at 4 o'clock for you to cover. The Bundesliga second half whistles are going as well. Games kicking off all around there. No goals to report of us yet, but going into second half, it's going to be FC Cologne 0, Freiburg 0, Frankfurt 1, Augsburg 0, RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0, Stuttgart v Mönchengladbach 1-0 in that game. That game is yet to kick off for the second half. And Union Berlin v Leverkusen at 0-0. And then coming up at 5:30 is Schalke v Werder Bremen 2. We're not covering that game, but the game we are covering in the Serie A is AS Roma v AC Milan, 5 o'clock. Leon Jones is the one who will be covering that at the Stadio Olimpico. Identical points tallies, identical goal differences heading into that match. It's a winner-takes-all tie. It's a 6-point tie, and it's a game that you are not going to want to miss, so make sure you are still listening to this show come 5 o'clock, and then at 7:45 is Torino v Atalanta. 20 minutes gone between Elche v Rayo Vallecano. 0-0 there. 5:30 Real Madrid v Almeria. And then at 8 o'clock, it's Barcelona v Real Betis. We're going to go to the Amex Stadium. We've been there so many times in the opening 40 minutes of the Premier League games so far, because Brighton, they are thumping Wolverhampton. It's an absolute romp there, and they're looking for their fourth, Matt Smith.
They are. It was Mario Lemina who almost gifted them their fourth. It was a poor, lazy pass, which is what I've got to say about, every single Wolves player, maybe bar Pedro Neto, who seems to be a diamond in the rough for the Wolves starting 11. He's given a lazy pass with Lemina out to Julio Enciso. Julio Enciso's got a bit of trickery. He's gone past Lemina, and he's forced a very good save from Jose Sarr, but this is going to turn very ugly if Wolves don't wake up a little bit. Lopetegui's going to have to give them a right rollicking at half-time. It's we're 34 minutes in. Brighton and Hove Albion 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
Brighton, they really are taking Wolves to the guillotine, aren't they? 3-0, could be 4, might even be 5 or 6 by the end of this game. We're going to bring in John Kane now to tell us, we'll continue our conversation about Manchester City and Arsenal as we're interrupted through all the drama, but that's exactly what we love to hear and love to see on this show. John, we'll quickly pick up where we were saying, because you were reading out Arsenal's fixtures as we were, had to stop you talking, which is very hard. And we were talking. Do you think that Arsenal, with the fixtures they've got coming up and the fixtures that Manchester City have gone up, where do you think that it's done for Arsenal, or do you think that Manchester City will slip up, or alternatively, will Arsenal slip up?
I think the way you see Manchester City play, or they have been playing, especially recently, it's very hard to see how they're going to be stopped. They're fighting in 3 fronts, haven't they? The FA Cup, the final against arch rival Manchester United. They've got the league, and it's all in their hands if they win the remainder of their games. And of course, they're in the Champions League, and who else but Real Madrid waiting for them? And they've got big enough squad to try to fight in all them 3 fronts. And I think probably the league for them this season is important, of course. but I don't think it's as important as them winning the Champions League. That's what they want. That's what Pep Guardiola wants. He wants to win the Champions League with Manchester City. However, when it comes to the league, he would love it if he win the treble. Repeat something that Manchester United did back in 1999. So the league will be very important for him. And when you look at it, and it's actually in their hands, it's very hard to see them hard to slip. Like I said, you take off 2-3 players, and who are actually first team players, and replace them with another 3 players like Mahrez and Foden, and it's hard to see how you can stop a team like that who's literally got reinforcements in every single position. Arsenal, if you speak to any Arsenal fan in the beginning of the season, they would have said they would be very happy with the top 4, let alone fighting for the Premier League title. And I think for the time being, Arsenal will be very happy, and they can always build on it for next season. You can't rule anything out. This is football. At the end of the day, we've seen how weird things happen in football before in the Premier League or elsewhere, but it's literally I can't see Manchester City losing the title, especially now.
The depth is key, isn't it? The fact that you saw Riyad Mahrez, player that scored a hat-trick just a week before in the FA Cup semi-final, be on the bench in that game. So the depth is really where it lies out. And I guess that leads on nicely, the fact that where do Arsenal go from here? I mean, I guess you've really got to commend Arsenal for that. They've led about 90% of this Premier League season. And the fact that they haven't got the depth of Manchester, they really have pushed them all the way. So has this been a successful season for Arsenal?
It's been very successful. Like I said, they weren't expecting to be probably top 4. They'd be very happy with the top 4, let alone, I believe, you've got a goal.
We do. We have a goal, and it's a 4th at Brighton.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
This really is a statement win for Brighton, a statement performance for Robert De Zerbi. There may have been question marks, especially from myself, about how they would react from last week's defeat at Manchester United. Well, they're reacting in some style. A 4-goal first half for the Seagulls and the men in blue and white, and it is Danny Welbeck who has added that 4th. A very, very impressive 45 minutes for the Sussex-based team. And they really are pushing Wolves out to sea on the coast, because it is Brighton 4, Wolverhampton 0. And that means now Brighton will move to 52 points with a game in, not with a game in hand. They'll have a game in hand on Tottenham and the teams around them respectively, because they have played 2 games less than them. So they'll move to 52 points, and maybe, just maybe, Europa League isn't out of the equation and the task for Brighton Hove Albion, and they'll be dreaming of a European tour come next season. It's a cricket score. It really is. And to Matt Smith to tell us about this cricket score.
Oh, goodness me, a cricket score is exactly right. It's with 39 minutes played, goodness me. It's Brighton Hove Albion 4, Wolves 0, and it started with a Stupinian out on the left wing, and he's whipped it so far over the Wolves defence, and that seems to be the sort of area they really want to try and plug. And he's whipped it over, and Danny Welbeck is maybe 5 yards, 6 yards out, and Jose Sarr should do much better. He's beaten, from 5 yards out. It's a header. It is down at the ground, and the goalkeepers that are listening would say, oh, well, if you see that goal, it's very difficult. It's a point blank. But, the goalkeeper's job is to save 5-yard headers. It's down at his feet, but it's Brighton and Hove Albion 4, Wolves 0, and it's a demolition of Wolverhampton Wanderers here at the Amex. Brighton and Hove Albion 4, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
Matt, when this result kind of happens, you do have to ask the question whether Brighton are playing exceptionally or whether Wolves are playing, awfully, the complete opposite of that. Brighton, I mean, there's no doubt about it, to be 4 goals up, have to be playing exceptionally. However, this really has to say a lot about Wolves and the performance they've put in today.
Yeah, you can't take anything away from Brighton. They really are, turning on the gas. They're really turning the screw. I think Wolves have to take a hard look at themselves. As I'm looking around the Amex, you've got Wolves fans that are, fair enough, some people might say they're going for their half-time drinks and their food, but if I'm a Wolves fan, I'm heading home. I'm beating the traffic. I'm not going to watch this calamity unfold in front of me. It's very, very poor showing. It's probably game over. Wolves fans and the players will probably say, oh no, we've still got another 45 minutes to fix it. But goodness me, if you're a neutral like I am, you're sitting there thinking, yeah, this is game over. Brighton are almost in a training game at this point.
It really is. They really, really are poor from Wolves. It's going to be a long journey back home to the Midlands. Thank you very much, Matt Smith. Half-time nearly in that game, and half-time across the fixtures that we're covering all across England, nearly half-time between Brentford and Nottingham Forest and Sunderland Wolves, respectively. We're going to bring John Kane in back for now, and we're going to discuss Arsenal, John, and I asked you, whether the season has been a success, but I'll pose a question to you. Would you have rather had Manchester United's season, for example, a top four with a Carabao Cup and potentially an FA Cup, or would you have much rather had Arsenal's season, finishing second, pushing Manchester City all the way to the league and having a really good platform to build on for next year?
Actually, I would rather go through the route of Arsenal. Something is very exciting. It's very exciting to be in the top 2 or top 3 fighting for that title. Yes, of course, having a trophy is fantastic. Like Manchester United, they've already got one in the bag, and there's another one against Manchester City. But you just could not beat the excitement of actually trying to win the league. Yeah, you might fail. We've seen so many teams who tried and failed, and of course, we're not talking about Tottenham here. We never do, but but these things do happen. But I would rather be in Arsenal's shoes and trying to win the league. And technically, you look at them; they're top of the league. Yes, it's all in Manchester City's hand, but at Arsenal, they should be so proud of the position they're in. Because whatever happens is Manchester City are the one who need to win their games to overtake Arsenal. So how exciting is that? I would rather be in Arsenal's shoes than Manchester United's shoes.
I think that's spot on, really, isn't it? And obviously the doom and gloom when the clouds part and the sun shines again round North London and Islington and really kind of show that actually their season has been really good this year, Arsenal, and they've pushed Man City all the way. And actually, all they've got to do is add a few more key pieces. They're ahead of schedule, and that next year will be a really, really good year for them. And who knows, maybe if Pep Guardiola wins the Champions League, he leaves, and the door's wide open for Arsenal to win their first Premier League title since 2003, 2004. It's a really, really good point there, John Kane. Thank you very, very much. We'll be with you again shortly because I wanted to be discussing Chelsea's woes and whether maybe the Blues and Frank Lampard's team could be facing the drop this season. Who knows? I'll get your opinion from it shortly. For now, though, we're going to head over to Brentford because Nottingham Forest have got the first chance of the afternoon, really. And I can't believe I'm saying that 45 minutes in, Patrick.
That showed some very good possession where they worked it wide. Across came in, and Tara Awayini rose, and I tell you, to a header just wide. Actually, that could have been 1-0 Nottingham Forest. But at the moment now, they're still doing the same things. It's interesting the way they actually defend with a box 4 in the middle of the park. But anyway, with 43 gone, it's still Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
Nearly half-time in that game, and that's a game that really needs half-time because we need some goals. Patrick Naret to Jamie McKeague now into the Bundesliga. 10 minutes gone in the games in Germany. No goals there. A bit of a slow start, Jamie.
It has been, yeah, and it's been a little bit of a resurgence from Hoffenheim. I think Matarazzo at halftime took off Angelino, apparently for an injury, but I did think he struggled in the first half for Nozzi, who is naturally a centre-back, but is playing on the left-hand side. But Hoffenheim have improved. They've come out in the second half with something to prove. They've been a little bit more lively. They've attacked Leipzig, but Leipzig still moving the ball about very nicely, and they are just a better... I think it's really easy to notice the difference between the two teams quality-wise. Leipzig are by far the better team, and they're showing that. Their ability to knock the ball out and the press resistance in midfield is really giving them the edge in this game. And I do think another goal is coming. I do think it'll come to Leipzig because they're dangerous players like Nkunku, Forsberg, and Werner. I think Hoffenheim, bar Kramaric, are a little bit weak up front. But we are just about to enter the 50th minute here at the Red Bull Arena, and it is still RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
Leipzig really are a bogey team for Hoffenheim. They've lost more competitive games against the home team today than any other team since they were promoted in the top flight in 2015-16. So they really haven't got a good record against Leipzig, and let alone Leipzig at home. And you've got to ask the question whether Hoffenheim have maybe peaked a little bit too early. This could be back-to-back defeats for them after losing 3-1 at home to Cologne last weekend. and maybe they've just peaked a little bit too early. It's so key in this relegation battle that you're picking up form at the right time. And with the VfB Stuttgart currently beating Borussia Mönchengladbach 1-0 in the game in the Bundesliga, as I reported earlier, they are now only 1 point from 16th place. That would make them go into a playoff. It's better than 17th, but it's still not ideal for the team that have been in the Bundesliga 15 consecutive years since their promotion. They're not out of the woods yet, and they're currently being dragged back into it with their defeat at Leipzig. A game that's going currently on is between Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen. Gage Morgan's the one that's covering that one. Still 0-0. So the game's been a little bit of a tactical battle as the same theme continued in the opening 15 minutes of the second half. Check the Gage.
Well, last season, Union Berlin, they conceded the least shots in their box in the entire Bundesliga with the exception of Bayern Munich, and you can see why. Leverkusen cannot lay a glove on them. If Leverkusen try and keep possession, Union Berlin swarm them and get the ball. If they try to go direct, they win every header, they win every second ball. When they get even remotely close to Union Berlin's box, the defenders are out, they're winning it back. Union Berlin are perpetual, they will not stop. What they're lacking is that final third. For all of how well they've played and how well they've won the ball back, they haven't really had a clear-cut chance. They are missing Kevin Burbins. He scored some big goals for them this season. So it's down to Sheraldo Bakker and Jordan as things stand. But one of these teams need a goal. Union Berlin to consolidate fourth, maybe even push Dortmund and Munich, and Bayer Leverkusen to continue that hunt for Champions League football. 60 gone here. Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0.
No goals in Germany, but we do have a goal in the Premier League.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And what an important goal it is, because Nottingham Forest have taken the lead at the G-Tech Stadium. Danilo, the ex-Real Madrid and Manchester City player, is the one that has put them in front, and they now lead 1-0. We asked the question of whether the result against Liverpool would spur this team into life, put confidence into this team. Well, it's doing exactly that after defeating Brighton 3-1 at the City Ground on Wednesday night. They are now 45 minutes away from taking their second consecutive win, and a win that would really breach some daylight between them and the teams in 18th and 19th place, respectively. Danilo with the goal, and that could be one of the biggest goals of his career, because Nottingham Forest, with this win, would be so close to Premier League safety. Goes to Premier League safety. We will be with Patrick Norret. We're going to go to Patrick Norret now.
Yeah, again, I would say against around the play, but I tell you what they did. They worked it right to the left-hand side, got a throw. In stepped the man to take the long throw. They took the long throw out, and the ball was headed out, and Delino got hold of it and took a shot, bottom left-hand corner. So we're half-time's blown now. It's Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1. What a game we've got now in our hands. Against around the play, I would say, well, it's nice to go in 1-0.
How big is that goal? I mean, like I said, the halftime whistle was just blown at the GK Stadium. How big is going to be that goal, getting it before halftime, Patrick?
Well, the people say as a coaching, right, the best time to score is before halftime. The worst time to give away a goal is before halftime. So basically, I think what they've done now, their team talk is going to be totally different. We'll probably see Brentford now hitting more long balls, trying to get that back. But they've worked it quite well. So we're set up for a great second half, because I think now Nottingham Forest got something to hold on to. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. 1-0 in that tie. It's 2 minutes to Femi in the team and Nigerian. What a brilliant place to end there with the Nottingham Forest goal. That means going into half-time, we have goals. Going to half-time, we have goals in both our Premier League games, and that game is going to be set up beautifully for maybe one of the classics of the season, because Nottingham Forest are going to be defending for their lives to keep the result that way. The results around the half-time grounds as well. It's Bristol City are currently losing to Burnley 1-0. Coventry are beating Birmingham 2-0. Hull and Swansea are drawing 1-0. Reading and Wigan 0-0. Sheffield United are beating Preston 1-0 at the break. Stoke 0-0 between QPR, and Sunderland are beating Watford 1-0. That's the half time. We're going to be with our reporters after Femi and the team to get the scores around the grounds and to get their half-time thoughts as we go into around the Bundesliga. 63 minutes gone in the respective games. Freiburg are now beating FC Cologne 1-0. That means they climb back into the top four and put RB Leipzig down into fifth. Frankfurt 1, Augsburg 1, RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0, Stuttgart 1, Mönchengladbach 0, and Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0. Coming up at 5 o'clock, it's AS Roma v AC Milan, and at 7:45 7:45 is Torino v Atalanta. 35 minutes going on a league game between Elche and Rayo Vallecano. Rayo Vallecano are down to 10 men. That game could end up being an absolute cricket score. That's the word of Football Live today, and that game could end up being, if Rayo Vallecano can hang on, they've got a long time to do it. At 5:30 it's Real Madrid v Almeria, and then 8 o'clock it is Barcelona. And to now, we're going to go to Femi and the team.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM, powered by NairaBet, with Josh Bailey.
Big goals all across Europe so far in today's show, and there was no bigger goal than the one just before half-time between Nottingham Forest and Brentford. Brentford, the home team in that fixture, and they fell behind, and that could be a huge goal in the relegation clash. There's big goals, and the reason why they're big goals is because there is so much to play for across the continent, and no much more than in the Bundesliga. 20 minutes remaining in those respective ties. And first, we're going to head over to Jamie McGee between RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim, because they're currently 1-0 up, but Freiburg are winning, so they've slipped out the top 4 places, Jamie.
Yeah, massive in the Bundesliga title. Leipzig, with a better goal difference, will like to just see this game out, because it would be an absolute travesty for RB Leipzig and their fans if they were to lose here. But I will give respect to Hoffenheim, because after the half-time break, they picked it up a little bit, but they've continued their good form. They've probably been the better team this second half. Marco Rose has brought on some fresh legs. He's taken Emil Forsberg, Ram, Gavardiol, and Christopher Nkunku off for Andre Silva, Halstenberg, Diallo, and Dani Olmo. And Matarazzo has made some substitutions for Hoffenheim, sorry, I forgot the team name for a second. Pommel, Rudy, who actually got a yellow card about a minute after coming on, and Skovoval come on, and they are chasing the game. And Hoffenheim do look like the team in control now, and they do like they're really chasing the game, because they need these points for relegation. I do think RB Leipzig, with the fresh legs in the pitch, will see this game out, but you do not want to miss the last 20 minutes here. Just entering the 71st minute now. It's still RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
Time running out there for Hoffenheim to get an equaliser, and time is also running out for Union Berlin to take the lead against Leverkusen. Remember, a win and 3 points for Union Berlin would see them climb up to stay third, but he's 3 points off the league leaders, Borussia Dortmund. Are they playing like a team in search for the 3 points, Gage?
Well, I think they call that the commentator's curse, Josh, because in the last report I said that Union Berlin are perpetual, but that seems to have stopped, ironically. The energy's really dropped from him, and Bayer Leverkusen are now knocking the ball about just outside the Union box. Xabi Alonso hasn't looked worried at all during this game. I think he was pretty confident if they don't concede, Union will tire and they can sort of express their will on them. We've played 72 minutes here. Leverkusen are starting to turn the screw a little bit. It's Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0.
It's also a really important game for Leverkusen and Xabi Alonso, because if they can win, they not only extend their unbeaten run to 14 games in all competitions, they also will move to 51 points, and that will close the gap to the top 4, will keep the gap to the top 4 to just 5 points, and they could possibly be dreaming of a Champions League, but they might not need to finish in the top 4 in the Bundesliga, because they have got a date against Roma against Jose Mourinho in the Champions League, in the Europa League semi-finals, or if they win the Europa League, they get into the Champions League courtesy of the fact that if you win that competition, you get top 4 and you get to play in the Champions League next season. So either way, they could be in the top 4. They could be in the most prestigious competition in Europe. It could be the most prestigious competition in Europe. That's then the games that are currently going on across the Bundesliga. It's half-time in England, and the 3 games we are covering in the Premier League and in the Championship, respectively. We're going to get the half-time report now from Matt Smith, and between the Brighton and Wolves game, where Brighton, well, they've absolutely imposed their will on Wolves, and they're pretty helpless, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's a nightmare first half for Wolves. 6 minutes in, Dennis Undav has opened the scoring and finished off a Danny Welbeck back heel assist to make it 1-0. And it got, far better for Brighton and even worse for Wolves, because 6 minutes later, Brighton Hove Albion broke down the left wing with Julio Enciso, and he slotted Pascal Gross. And Gross calmly finished past Jose Sarr to make it 2-0. And under the 30-minute mark, Gross doubled his tally for the day with a superb goal. He flicked the ball up and he volleyed it into the top corner past Jose Sarr to make it 3-0. And about 5-6 minutes before half-time, Danny Welbeck headed Brighton and Hove Albion 4-0 up from a deep Purvis Estupiñán cross. It's been all Brighton, as the scoreline shows. Wolves look very, very poor, and Lopetegui has got a goodness me, he's got a job on his hands now to stop this becoming a cricket scorer, as we say on this show at the moment. It's going to be a very interesting second half in terms of what changes are made by both managers. Will the Brighton sit back, or do they go for more and more and more? We don't know whether the goal difference might play a part. We don't know. I think as a neutral, I'd say there's no mercy. You have to keep going. But we're half time at the Amex. It's Brighton and Hove Albion 4 and Wolverhampton 0.
Do you think it's the type of game, Matt, that really, we don't like to town play games here on Football Live, but do you think it's over? Do you think it's a case of Wolves just trying to limit their misfortunes and kind of the embarrassment of keeping it to 4 or 5?
Yeah, I think, you have to be a little bit honest, brutally honest, and I think it probably is game over. I'm 90% sure it's game over unless something, incredible happens and Wolves turn it right around to get a draw. But, really can't see it happening. You've got to be brutally honest. I think it's a matter of, like you say, just for Wolves to just stop it, becoming very embarrassing for them. If it stays 4-0, goodness me, the second half, if they draw the second half 0-0, it's a much better second half, obviously. But, I think Brighton won't stop. And that's without all their star sort of players, those starting 11 players. I wonder if they'll get some playing time, or I wonder if De Zerbi will just rest them and bring a few youngsters on. We'll have to wait and see, though. It's embarrassing for Wolves. It could get very, very, very bad and could get worse in the second half.
Yeah, let's see. There we go. Wolverhampton. Damage imitation. Virginia Lopetegui. That's what Matt Smith is kind of saying, really, to Sunderland now and to the Stadium of Light, which has just kicked off right now. It's the Stadium of Gloom at the moment, isn't it, Jack Hesson? 40 seconds into the second half currently. What did the first half tell you, really? And do you think the second half will be much different?
Yeah, it's a massive 45 minutes coming up for Sunderland. They really did not make possession count in that first half. The one real clear-cut chance of the game came for Watford from the corner. Kabasele on 17 minutes headed it home to give Watford a 1-goal advantage after being on the back foot for so much of that first half. They have defensively, though, been really structured, limiting Sunderland to chances from outside the area. The one real chance came from when Patrick Roberts got a bit of space to advance towards the box. Kabasele was there to meet him. He tries to curl it round Kabasele, and it just goes wide of Backman and goal for Watford's post. That really has been the only chance. News elsewhere shows Coventry have beaten Birmingham City by 2-0. So if things stay as they are, what that means then is that they only can goal level in points of Millwall on goal difference. And if they concede any more, then that will have a damaging effect on that. But still, all to play for in the second half. Half-time, Sunderland 0, Watford 1.
So much pressure when you get to this end of the season, to the business end of the season, and the pressure only rises when you find yourselves in positions like the Black Cats are currently. They've got to come out fighting in the second half and try and claw down the Hornets, because if they don't, as Jack Hesson mentioned, Coventry currently winning at home in their respective game, and they will be outside the top 7 going into what could be the final game week which could be in the final game week of the Championship next week. So it is so crucial, so vital, so important that Sunderland at least get a point back in this game, but ideally they get 3. Right now, though, we're going to go to Patrick Narrett, because second half has just kicked off the Brentford v Nottingham Forest. He spoke about the goal, but he didn't give us his half-time report. So what did the first time tell you, Patrick?
Not a lot to say for until the 45th minute, to be honest. Both sides were trying. Looks like two boxers fighting and just jabbing each other until that. They were 32nd in extra time, when Forest got that goal. Long throw, like I said, from their left-hand side. The ball came and hit it out, and the ball then bubbled about in the box, and then Delino finished it off. So it'll be interesting to see what Brentford do with the second half. No changes so far. So we'll have to wait and see. So at half-time, it's, we've probably 30 seconds just gone. It's Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1.
The latest big match odds with NairaBet.
Yes, the latest big odds from NairaBet website. Of course, all these prices are subject to change. Let's start with the Bundesliga. We've got about 12-13 minutes to go till full time. The games are concentrating on Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen. It's 0-0 at the moment, as we heard. And Union Berlin are just gone up to 6.0 for the win of that game. The draw is 1.44, and the win for Bayer Leverkusen is 5.50. So the bookies think Leverkusen got a bit of a chance to sneak that away win with Xavi Alonso taking charge. The other game, RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim, is 1-0 to Leipzig. Again, about 12 minutes to go. Leipzig are 1.11 for the win. 8.0, just gone up to 8.0 for the draw, and 67.0 for Hoffenheim to turn things around. The other games in the Bundesliga, Eintracht Frankfurt 1, Augsburg 1. Eintracht Frankfurt are 3.30 for the win, the draw. In fact, he just got suspended, so halfway through. So we'll leave that for the time being. Cologne, they're playing Freiburg. They're losing at home by 1-0. Cologne are 19.0 for the win, 4.75 for the draw, and Freiburg to win is 1.29. He's also suspended in Stuttgart against Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's also got suspended in Brighton and Wolves. There's a goal. I can tell you it's 5-0. We'll be getting more details of that goal very, very shortly. It's 5-0 to Brighton. As for Brentford, they're losing by a goal to nil. Brentford has gone down to 4.33. The draw is 3.0. And finally, Forest for the win at 2.10. Of course, all these prices are subject to change.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is a goal for Brighton, as John Kane reported, and has the goal reported there as well. It's disaster for Wolves because they, well, like we said, the damage limitation was the key for them, wasn't it? However, the Seagulls, they didn't have that in their plans, and as it stands, it's now Brighton 5, Wolves 0. And Wolves, they are out to sea, and by this rate, they'll be in France, they'll be in Calais by the evening, because they are playing awfully right now. And after making 3 substitutions at half time, it has not gone according to plan for them. And this could be really, really dangerous. We could be looking, we saw 6-1 to Newcastle last week, and this score could go past that. This score could be 7 or 8. And it's so dangerous to be conceding this amount of goals, to have that result this late in the season, especially for a team like Wolves, where confidence might be fragile because you are fighting down the bottom of the table. And even though they're all but safe, feels like they're not quite safe. They need another win under the belt to confirm that. And let's hope this defeat at Brighton, the nature of what it has been, isn't going to have the ripples so far, the ripples that it might have and into Wolves season. For now, though, let's go to Matt Smith, because he's going to tell us about the 5th goal of the afternoon at the Amex.
Well, if things were bad enough for Wolves, they've got even worse. And I'll tell you what, it's another very good goal. It's Danny Welbeck's 2nd of the day. It's Wolves giving the ball away a little bit. Julio Enciso has been that man from the first half who's caused a lot of trouble down Wolves' right side. And Semedo had to be pulled off at half-time, or just before half-time, actually. He didn't fancy it today, and Julio Enciso is on top form. He's tried to wiggle it through into the centre of the park. It's fallen to Danny Welbeck nicely onto his left foot, and he struck it. He whipped it round Jose Sarr to make it Brighton and Hove Albion 5, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0 after 48 minutes played. Now it's game over, Josh.
It's Julian Lopetegui's 200th top flight as manager, encompassing spells in Portugal, Spain and England. And what a horrible, horrible game to have as your 200th one as manager. A speckled career and a sparkling career for Julian Lopetegui. But this one is one he's definitely going to want to forget. 5 goals conceded on such a special anniversary for him. They're going to want this game to be done sooner rather than later. Hopefully, it's just a bit for Wolverhampton. We're in the closing stages of the Bundesliga, and Leipzig are 2-0 up against Hoffenheim, and they've hit the post to nearly make it 2, Jamie McKeague.
Yes, Josh, and I mean, I mentioned that Hoffenheim were starting to create more chances and they were the better team this second half, but Leipzig showed how dangerous they can be. The chance starts deep in the Leipzig half, but after winning the ball back, they break very quickly. Dani Olmo does very well, carries the ball really well into the Hoffenheim final third and threads a great through ball onto the run of Andre Silva. Silva's position just to the right of the penalty spot, and his shot is hit well, but it crashes off the crossbar, and everyone at the Red Bull Arena thought he had scored. Halstenberg for RB Leipzig also with a shot inside the area that flashed wide. Hoffenheim have been better this half, and Bubu had a chance to score his header from close range just went over, but Leipzig proved why you can't forget about defending, and to be honest, they probably should have doubled their lead. We've just entered the 82nd minute here, 8 minutes of normal time still to play here at the Red Bull Arena. It is still, though, RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
To the capital now, and to Union Berlin, who are drawing 0-0 at Bayer Leverkusen. Engage saying that nothing's really happening in that game, and that must be such a surprise and a shame, really, in a game that was built up with so much on the line. Are you a bit disappointed, Gage?
A bit disappointed. It's just the tactics of Union Berlin. If anything, this is quite a good dress rehearsal for that semi-final for Xabi Alonso. This Union Berlin side, with a few alterations, are very Jose Mourinho, and he's going to have to come up against that in the semi-final. Union Berlin are tiring, Bayer Leverkusen are turning the screw, but they've struggled with their final ball into the box as well. Jeremy Frimpong and Moussa Diaby, they've had such good seasons, and Moussa Diaby's went off. I don't think either of them they've barely touched the ball this game. Both these teams will be open for a goal. As we were saying earlier, Leverkusen hunting down that 4th Champions League spot. Union Berlin hunting down Dortmund and Bayern Munich. One of these teams would like a goal, but there's 5 minutes to go. Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0.
So much to play for in that game. One goal could really turn the tide on both teams' season and turn them into directions either that are going to turn this season into one to forget or one that can maybe one to never forget. Union Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen, Union Berlin 0, Bayer Leverkusen 0. So many goals everywhere. It's really hard to keep track of, especially in that Brighton game, and Watford came really, really close to finding a second in that game. Jack Kesson.
Yeah, it's incredible at the moment. Really, that save from Anthony Patterson there. We are 53 minutes played. Sunderland now, Watford 1, and Anthony Patterson has just came up with an incredible save. As Malassar on the right-hand side. I don't know if he's going for a shot or a cross, but whatever he's trying, it had so much pace on it. It cannons off of Luke O'Nien, and as Patterson tries to adjust towards the right-hand side of his goal, he's left the left exposed. It hits towards the left-hand side, and it comes off with an incredible save. The rebound falls to Keenan Davis. He can't get the shot away, and that chance was over for Watford. Then Sunderland go up the other end, and it's Paddy Roberts on the right-hand side. Plays a perfect cross to Hume, who's darting in at the back post. His header then forces Backman and goes for Watford into an incredible save as well. End-to-end stuff here at the Stadium of Light. 54 minutes played. Sunderland 0, Watford 1.
1-0 there. It's 1-0 to Nottingham Forest as well in the Premier League against Brentford. 10 minutes gone in that tie. Haven't heard from Patrick Naret yet. Has that goal before half-time really done favours for either team, either Nottingham Forest or Brentford, Patrick?
It's the same as before because it's now what's happening is Brentford are dominating possession but not really cutting through. But I think they might get hit on the break again. You never know. You have to wait and see. If this game was played on, if you decide to give points on corners, right? Brentford will win. They've had 4 corners so far in this game, but they're still trying to open them up, but they can't at the moment. So it's 55 gone. It's Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1.
Brentford were the team that beat Chelsea in midweek to condemn them to yet another defeat under Frank Lampard. It really is miserable if you're a Chelsea fan. Maybe a little bit of more happiness and light has been shed on the situation with the fact that Mauricio Pochettino should become the next manager to take to that Chelsea dugout. However, there is a real danger that if Chelsea don't get their act together, they could be sucked towards that relegation zone. It's not helped with the fact they're coming under a really, really hard run of fixtures next. And this is what Frank Lampard had to say about those upcoming fixtures.
That's just a reality. We've got a really tough run in 3 of those top 4 all away from home. I don't think it's worth going probably one step other than the next one at the minute, which is Arsenal. And so the team have to be motivated, but there's a lot on it. Even though people go, there's not much on it for you. You're not going to get in Europe. You're not going to get relegated, all those things. But at the same time, they have to be individually motivated. And I thought today they were. And then you have to keep fighting for the turn. Because I've been a player in a moment, maybe not similar to exactly now, but certain moments individually. And then sometimes you rely on your teammate who's in great confidence, great nick, and they maybe, get your result or not like tonight. At the minute, we have a collective moment like that. So the only way out of it is to work. We play a back 3 in the first half. We control the game. We're not effective enough at the top end of the pitch. You play a back 4, we're more effective looking, but we still could consider on a counter-attack. It's not a tactical problem for me at the minute in this short term. But at the minute, there's clearly a confidence problem, and I can see that in the players' faces after, because they're not sitting there bemoaning each other at this moment. There's a nature of them being down. I walked into that. They've been living it longer than me, and we're trying everything to affect it. Firstly with performance, and then for results, and we have to keep going with that.
It really is a dark, dark moment for Chelsea, and John Kane, our resident football expert, is going to come in now. John, what are your take on this Chelsea situation? They've been really bad under Lampard, I think that's fair to say, but it's not his fault. I feel like any other sort of manager under this situation would really struggle. As he said, really feels like there's a confidence problem, and you don't need a confidence problem this late in the season.
No, I agree. I don't think it's entirely his fault. However, you can't help looking at your London neighbours, teams like, for example, Crystal Palace, who had very similar issues, and yet they brought in someone, very experienced manager, Roy Hodgson, and he steadied the ship, and he'll be steadying the ship until the end of the season. And look at the results they've been having. A complete turnaround for Palace. What Chelsea done, they've gone to one of their all favourite players, an ex-manager who left for a reason, or sacked for a reason, and they brought him back to save Chelsea or to steady the ship at Chelsea, and it completely backfired. And you can understand why it's backfired, because, like I said, he left there for a reason. He's not really someone that you can bring on and you steady a ship with. Someone like Brendan Rodgers would be much more ideal person to come in, who would probably steady the ship much, much better at Stamford Bridge than Frank Lampard did. And Brendan Rodgers been at the club before. He was Mourinho's assistant. He knows the club inside out, and you would love to have that sort of opportunity to be managing a club that he was a coach before. And with the expertise that he has, I think he'd have done much, much better. And I mean, to look at Chelsea, and their last win was back in 11th of March, and we're literally May, come in a couple of days' time. I can't remember what was the last time it happened. I mean, someone has to tell me what was the last time Chelsea went through that sort of phase. It must be a long, long time ago, probably even before the Abramovich era. You know, when the money started coming in and the team got stable, they have brilliant players. And you look at the players now; they've got the players. They haven't got that number 9 who score goals. But when you lose to teams like, with all respect to Brentford at home and to Brighton at home, and Villa as well, of course. You know, I know they're all teams are doing well, but when you do a comparison between these clubs with Chelsea are far superior financially. The status of the club, everything around it is in Chelsea's benefit. Yeah, it's not going well, and I don't think it's going to get any better either, to be honest. And their game against Arsenal. I'll be open for predictions on how many goals Arsenal will be scoring in that game.
It's a really interesting concept, isn't it? I mean, it's so fascinating, this show's conversation. And one, I know the fans listening to this show will really want to keenly hear. Before we continue this conversation, I quickly want to head over to the Bundesliga because we are creeping into added time there. We'll start at Union Berlin, the Bayer Leverkusen. A couple of minutes added on there. Any good changes in the score, do you think, Gage, or is it really going to end up 0-0?
Well, it burst into life for 5 or so minutes there. Bayer Leverkusen, it was Florian Wirtz, that young wonder kid they have. He burst through, but his final ball was just lacking. But Union Berlin took that and they went the other way with Jerome Roussillon, their January signing. He ran the length of the pitch. It was a great, powerful run. He got to the box and the story of the game continued. His final ball was awful, if I'm honest. The striker was waiting on the penalty spot and he passed it to the Leverkusen centre-half. It was really poor. He then had to sprint backwards to defend and he's pulled his hamstring. But he was celebrating while getting pushed off the pitch. It was really an exciting 5 minutes that has sort of overshadowed the whole game here. We've got a minute left of extra time here. It's Union 0, Leverkusen 0.
What will happen in that game? What's going to happen between RB Leipzig and TSG Hoffenheim? Because Hoffenheim, they've got to be fighting for an equaliser because as it stands, they are going to be pulled deeper into that relegation zone, Jamie McKeague.
Yeah, and I think it is going to end 1-0. RB Leipzig are just showing their maturity, showing their experience, and just seeing the game out well. Tobias Stieler, the referee, has had a busy last 10 minutes. There's been fouls flying all over the place, and I will admit there have been some tactical and some smart fouls from RB Leipzig there, just trying to slow the play down, trying to just reset. And they've done that really well. I think the subs from Marco Reus have been very smart as well. And like I said, I do think this game is going to end 1-0. Not a lot of chances. Hoffenheim may have one more chance, but I still think it's going to end 1-0 Leipzig. We're just going to enter the final minute of play here. It's still RB Leipzig 1, Hoffenheim 0.
Full time between Union Berlin and Leverkusen in the Stuttgart v Mönchengladbach game. Well, there was a couple of moments of madness because on the 76th minute, Mönchengladbach drew level with Stuttgart, which would have gave Hoffenheim some breathing room. But unfortunately, 5 minutes later, in the 83rd minute, another penalty. Koulibaly entered from 12 yards out, and in the 83rd minute, they lead. We have had a goal in Lille between AC Hakio.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And to Matthew Key to tell us about the Lille goal.
Yes, well, good afternoon, Josh. Good afternoon, Football Live listeners. And what a start we've had here in France. It's 1-0 to Lille against poor near the bottom Ajaccio, and you can't help but feel sorry for them when goals like this are going in against them. It's brilliant play from Lille, who have started the game really well, and the ball is eventually played off to Andre Gomez. You remember him, used to play for Barcelona, used to play for Everton. They could do with some goals like this. It's a brilliant right-footed strike. Inside of the foot, curled beautifully into the top corner. Lille, it's been coming these first 20 minutes. They've got their goal, and it looks like it could be a long afternoon for Ajaccio and a chance for Lille to get some goals here. 22 minutes gone, and it's Lille 1, Ajaccio 0.
Has it been a disappointing season for Lille, Matthew? I mean, they're their sixth place. Pablo Fonseca would have been hoping for a top 4 spot, but recent form has sort of dragged them away from that. Would you say it's been a disappointing season for them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this team that Lille have got out today, and there's some serious attacking talent in that team. Obviously, Gomez, who I've just mentioned there. They've got Angel Gomez as well, former Manchester United youth prospect. I mean, a lot of good stuff was expected from him. Not quite materialised, but really building a career now at Lille. The likes of Jonathan Bamba and, of course, Jonathan David, the Canadian striker who scored over 20 goals this season. So, yeah, I think when you look at the table and you see they're there behind Lyon in third place, who are having an excellent season, but this Lille team is, on paper, stronger than that team. So, yeah, I mean, they've got an outside chance of the Champions League and Europa League places, but yeah, they'll be disappointed if they finish where they are now in 5th place, I think.
They will be very disappointed, but not today because they're leading 1-0. Thank you very much, Matthew. We'll be with you throughout the next couple of hours. That game will finish about 6 o'clock, kicked off at 4. 25 minutes gone in that tie. Full time running around the Bundesliga. We'll be with our reporters shortly to get the reports there, but I think it's time we go back to England, and we're going to start with Patrick Norret because Brentford 1-0 down in that tie against Nottingham Forest, but they've just come close to an equaliser.
Yeah, they did. The ball was nicely blocked on the left-hand side. This is not Brentford. They worked it out to Kevin Sheedy, which is a great name, and he put it in the middle, right? There was no one there. I'm asking the question, where is Tony? He's nowhere to be seen. There's 2 players, right, have been very quiet. Tony and also Johnson for Nottingham Forest. Not a lot. They're not getting on the ball a lot. Maybe he's doing a lot of defensive work. Substitution being made. Whitta's come on now for Henry. And then you've got, let's have a look, De Silva's come on for Damgard. So basically Brentford making substitution. But it's not changing much. All they're doing is they're not really throwing the ball forward, just passing it and passing it and passing it, seeing if they can open Nottingham Forest up. And what Nottingham Forest are doing, winning the ball, play the ball forward very quickly to get him on the counter. So with, where are we? We've about 64, 65 gone. It's Nottingham Forest, Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1.
There's already bad blood between these two managers. They met in the Champions League playoff semi-final and final in 2020 and 2021 respectively. That was Thomas Frank's Brentford and Steve Cooper's Swansea City at the time, and both times Thomas Frank's Brentford came up trumps, defeating both sides. In 2020 they lost in the final, however, Brentford, but in 2021 they went back and beat Steve Cooper's side. So there's already a bit of bad blood between these two managers. Thomas Frank has already had the ex-England under-21s manager number a couple of times, but so far this season, they're not doing too bad. Are they Are they Nottingham Forest winning 1-0 and Steve Cooper coming really, really close to getting one up on Thomas Frank? A team that aren't getting one up on anyone today is Wolves, because they've just conceded again at Brighton.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It's Dennis Undav's second of the day, and it is now Brighton 6, Wolves 0. Wolves were meant to stop the leak, stop the rot in this game, but they have failed to do that, conceding 2 goals in the second half. And as the clock ticks over to 70 minutes, they are now a 6th goal down in this game, and it is a real day to forget for Wolves. Wouldn't be surprised if the fans are exiting the stadiums and already travelling the long way back into the middle of the country, because when it's 6 goals down, it is back to town. That is the motto everyone lives by. Brighton 6, Wolves 0. What an embarrassing day for Wolverhampton. One that their rivals, West Brom, will be loving. And West Brom, they're playing Nottingham Forest later at 5:30 in the Championship as they look to go for a playoff spot. That's a game that's going to have huge ramifications for Sunderland. And Sunderland, who really need to butt their ideas up, but they're not doing that because they've just conceded another goal to Watford.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It's disaster for Sunderland. They thought this year might be the year. They thought this was the year that they would have the chance to get a playoff spot and then maybe go back to the promised land. But with the results of Coventry and the results that right now in their game, which means they're losing 2-0 to Watford, they have slipped out that playoff spot and will be 7th going into the final game week of the Championship. It is disaster. There is just a different level of pressure when you get to this stage of the season, and it's pressure the Sunderland in front of their own fans are not being able to deal with. It has gone off the scale, and Sunderland are cracking. Disaster in the northeast of England. What's going to happen there? They're going to have 20 minutes to try and rescue a solidarity point. Will they do it? Who knows? We'll be with our reporter Jack Hesson there shortly, but for now we're going to go to Matt Smith, who's going to tell us again about the 6th goal. I'm sick of hearing from you, Matt.
I know, I've got a sore throat from all this speaking. It's unbelievable. It's another calamity from Wolves. It really is. Jose Sarr, I know Lopetegui likes to play out from the back, but Jose Sarr is playing out from the back. He gives it to Mateus Nunes, almost similar to that De Gea Maguire situation. Nunes has got 2 men on him, and one of them is Dennis Undav. He nicks the ball off of Mateus Nunes, and Jose Sarr's in a bit of a panic, but Undav is calm, cool, and collected, and he cheekily lobs it over the goalkeeper for Wolves and makes it Brighton Hove Albion 6, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0 after 65 minutes.
Matt, I mean, on Brighton, this is a game that's really going to fill them with such confidence. And right now, they're on 52 points. They're only going to be 2 points off Tottenham and Aston Villa, respectively, who are they going to have 2 games in hand on. Europa League at 5th place is really, really in grasping reach for them, isn't it?
Yeah, this will certainly give them a boost. And, I've said it before in the first half, they didn't have those big names. They've come on now. Matoma's come on for Danny Welbeck. He wasn't able to get his hat-trick. An 18-year-old Facundo Buonanotte has come on for Solly March, who's had a quiet game. Joel Veltman's come off, Julio Enciso's come off, and Caicedo and Alexis McAllister are on. So now they're bringing these big guns on. If you're a Wolves player, you're thinking, oh, goodness me, as if we haven't suffered enough. You're now bringing on your big guns, and now Wolves find themselves 6-0 down, So difficult one to watch if you're a Wolves fan, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon. 6 goals. They've just got to think on to next week and try and make sure this result doesn't rock the boat with them mentally and ruin a season and maybe drag them towards that relegation zone once more. Brighton 6, Wolverhampton 0, a scoreline that we rarely see. But, I mean, it's a little bit more common than you might think. Only 3 goals have ended by 9. It was Southampton 0, Leicester 9. That was in October 2019. It was Tottenham 9, Wigan 1. That was in November 2009. And it was Manchester United 9, Ipswich 0. That was in March 1995. No game in the Premier League has ever seen 10 goals. Could we see 10 goals in the Premier League here today? Brighton with their 6th of the afternoon. They've got about 20 minutes to find 4 goals. It's probably a little bit of a stretch. They're probably not going to want to extend their advantage by any more and try and risk any injuries or any unnecessary, like you said, damages to their team. Probably won't see 10 goals or 9 goals, but that's a little bit of a stat for you, 4 teams that have seen. Also Manchester United, who beat Southampton 9-0 as well at Old Trafford. Southampton have been on some absolute thrashings, haven't they, during their Premier League time? And really, you feel like it's going to come to an end. And 10 goals to one team, that is as well. Only one team has ever got 10 goals. Apologies on that mistake. So the scores right now then around the Premier League is, Brighton are beating Wolverhampton 6-0. Brentford are losing 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest are 18 minutes away from potentially 3 points that would really, as we said, bridge some daylight between them and the rest of the teams. They'd move up to 16th on 33 points and there would a 4-point gap to Leicester in 18th. However, they would have a game in hand. For now, though, we're going to head over. We're going to get our full-time report, shall we, from Jamie McKeague. Before we do that, though, Jamie, we're going to have to report because Sunderland have got to go back.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And to Jack Hesson to tell us about both those goals for Watford and Sunderland, which means the Black Cats get themselves back into it immediately.
Yeah, it's been a frantic couple of minutes in the stadium. Watford looked like they were home and dry when Porteous, former Hibs man, headed in the goal from the corner, but it was an instant response from Sunderland with Luke O'Nien tapping one in at the back post. Really quick response there from Sunderland. And it is game on at the Stadium of Light. This is not over yet. Sunderland trying everything to save the playoff hope. 72 minutes played. Sunderland 1, Watford 2.
What's the mood like at the Stadium of Light at the moment, Jack? Because they're obviously going to want their team to go 1 goal back, but they know they lose today, their playoff quest becomes that much harder.
Well, it was completely dire just a couple of minutes ago when Watford took that second goal, but then it lifted and erupted when O'Nien headed it in at the back post, poked it in at the back post even to get that goal back. They have the belief back in the stadium, and hopefully that can, for Sunderland's point of view, that will drive them to the end of the game, but they're still 2-1 down at the moment. They need to try and get that second goal.
They really do need that second goal. But one thing the Sunderland team do have is fight. We spoke about how they came back from 1-0 down at half-time in West Brom last week, and they might have to do it from 2 goals behind this time round, and they've got 15 minutes to do so. Can they get a point, or can they get 3? Who knows with this Sunderland team, because they do have the cat in them. They are the Black Cats. It is their nickname. They know how to fight, and right now they're 2-1 down, but they have 15 minutes to find something from that game. Lille have also just doubled their lead in France.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
They have a fantastic record at home, Lille, don't they, Matthew Key? So no surprise that they are now 2 to the good.
Yes, that's absolutely right. They've won their last 5 at home and they are well on the way to making that 6. And it's Andre Gomez again. What a game he's having. Similar to the first goal, but with his different foot this time. His stronger right foot for the first, his weaker left foot with the second. But it didn't look like that way. It was beautiful football once again by the home side. It was Remy Cabella that was involved in it and gets the assist. Former Newcastle United player, of course. He found himself in a lovely bit of space, carried the ball, and instead of taking his man on, which it looked like he was going to do, a cheeky little back heel into the path of Andre Gomez, who was running onto it. He didn't need a touch. Out of his feet nicely. Left-footed finish, bottom corner. So easy. Another beautiful goal from Lille. And like we said earlier, Josh, it's football like this which will leave their fans frustrated that they're only in 5th position in the league. So much talent in this team, and they're making the most of it so far. 35 minutes gone. Lille 2, Ajaccio 0.
Lille 2, Ajaccio 0. Thank you very much, Matthew Key. There's so many goals in this, but we do, well, I mean, there's so much going on. So many goals flying in around all over the place. Before we go to our advert break, we are going to go to Patch to Brentford v Nottingham Forest, because this is a game that so many people are going to have their eyes on, whether you're a Leicester or an Everton fan or a Leeds fan. This is the game, because a win for Nottingham Forest today will be an absolute blow for those teams on your Patching Norette.
Yeah, definitely Nottingham Forest playing quite well, actually, because what's happened now with Brentford making a few changes, they're changing the way they play and leaving gaps at the back. Just before you came to the ball was in the middle of the park, and there was I can't remember which Nottingham Forest player it was, but he done an overhead kick, which the keeper saved. But it's all at the moment Forest dictating possession, trying to get that other goal, but obviously they've got to be able to counter-attack as well. So at the moment, it's 75 gone, still Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1.
Our partners at NairaBet are back with another special offer. Get 500 Naira free every time a Nigerian player scores. With 41 goals combined this season, how many will Mofi, Chukwueze, Iheanacho, Iwobi and Ndidi net you? When they score, so do you. To qualify, head over to NairaBet and make sure you include the following games in your ACCA. Villarreal versus Celta Vigo, Troyes versus Nice, Leicester versus Everton. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more details. ACCA must be placed by midnight tonight. Minimum stake required is 500 Naira. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly.
Football Live is back tomorrow from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Fulham take on Manchester City.
Fulham come from Championship and the season have been amazing.
And Liverpool.
But much more important that we win the game. And
against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM.
It is drama you will not want to miss.
Well, against all the odds, Bournemouth are taking the lead. Not a single shot on target up to this point.
Yeah, it was a James Ward-Prowse classic. He just kills it beautifully.
Well, it's been absolute chaos.
Yes, Josh. Football's a cruel game. You can have all the possession you want, but if you don't put the ball at the back of the net.
It was, again, Kate and Son, like the good old days.
But this show never disappoints.
Yes, well, it's Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 1 here, and it's Eberechi who's got the goal.
Oh my word, Josh. I cannot believe how Phil Foden has not made this 2-0.
Yes, Barry, it's a second goal for Borussia Dortmund, and the Dice Watch go on are running away with it now.
Football Live, the previous show with myself, Barry Swain, returns on Monday, exclusive to Brilla FM. It's where I take a look back at all of the action in today's show and tomorrow's show on Brilla FM and Football Live. And we also hear from the managers, we hear from the players, we take a look at who's going to win the leagues, who's going into Europe, and who will get relegated. It's all on Football Live, the preview show, this Monday, exclusive on Brilla FM.
Today's show is powered by Hollandia and Chivita.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brilla FM with Football Live.
But it always starts with us.
All the key action from around Europe's top leagues.
Wow, just wow.
You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM, powered by NairaBet. Have your say on today's action and interact with Brilla FM on Twitter at Brilla FM 889, on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM, and on Instagram, Brilla FM 889. Welcome back to Football Live on Brilla FM.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Yes, the goals that are powered by NairaBet, and there's been a load of them today, and they've been spread between two Matthews, Matt Smith and Matthew Key. It's Matthew Key with the goal, as Lille have gone 3-0 up.
Yes, 3-0 to Lille, as you say, me and Matt Smith having all the goals today. 6 at Brighton, 3 already here in Lille, and it's Remy Cabella this time that has got it, and it's lovely football once again, and it was a brilliant bit of play. It was Angel Gomez with a crossfield pass to Jonathan Bamba. He beat his man. Was he going to shoot? No, Remy Cabella was there. He will never score an easier goal in his life, and Lille are absolutely running away with it. Well, we complained about them should be higher up the table, Josh, but they've saved all their goals for Football Live, so we can't complain too much. Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
Yes, exactly. It's what we love, isn't it? Goes on Football Live around the grounds there in the Premier League. It's Brentford 0, Nottingham Forest 1, Brighton 6, Wolverhampton 0. They have both got 10 minutes left in that game. You're not going to want to miss that. In the Championship as well, you're not going to want to miss Sunderland v Watford, because one more goal for Sunderland would help them damage limitations, shall we say, in that game. Ideally, they want 3 points, but a point will be better than none. We'll be with Jack Hessen shortly. But for now, we're going to head over to the Bundesliga and get our full-time reports on Jamie McKeek and Gage Morgan. We'll start the Red Bull Arena first, and to Leipzig, who defeated Hoffenheim 1-0 in what is a big result for both teams.
Definitely, Josh, a good, well-earned win for RB Leipzig and a great reaction after their defeat last week. Totally dominated the first half, played some really nice and enjoyable football, and should have gone into half-time further ahead. Hoffenheim defenders Brooks and Apoguma have a great games and are a big reason why Leipzig didn't finish further ahead. But Hoffenheim's midfield was a big issue today. Their press was lackluster, and every time they did have the ball, they couldn't retain it at all. However, RB Leipzig midfielder Kevin Campbell was my man of the match today. I already mentioned throughout the game that RB Leipzig were playing great football and holding on to possession really well, and Campbell was probably the main reason for that. He dictated the game throughout the 90 minutes and showed his quality. A massive game for both sides. This leaves Hoffenheim just 1 point off the relegation playoff. And thanks again for having me, Josh.
If you're a Nottingham Forest fan, you might want to walk away from the radio because Brentford have equalised.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
8 minutes away from 3 points that could potentially save their season and their Premier League status. But the Bees have stung Forest and they have got an equaliser. It is an Ivan Toney free kick. The striker that can score from everywhere. We're so normally used to seeing him score from 12 yards out or within the 6-yard box. But he has taken the opportunity from a free kick. And what a way to score from the Englishman. It now means that he has broken his run of scoring in every other game because he has now scored in back-to-back games for the first time in a very long time. And what a way to equalise. Nottingham Forest fans, they probably have their head in their hands because it now means that their 3 points have been cut to 1. And it now means that their gap to the Premier League, to 18th, is that little bit less. And as it now means, accordingly, they'll slip back to 31 points. They'll still be outside the relegation zone, but by only 1 point, and they would have played a game more too. Oh, Nottingham Forest. When will the heartbreak end? But what a relegation fight this is. It has so many twists and turns every day, every week. And it's a shame that we've only got about 4 games left of it, but it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to go down to the very last kick of the ball, and you really just can't call who is going to come out on trumps of that game. We'll be with Patrick Norret shortly, but for now, we're going to head over to the Bundesliga. We're going to get our full-time report from Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen, and from Gage Morgan.
Yes, a high-pressure tactical back and forth here in Berlin has ended 0-0 between the two Champions League chasing sides. Jordan missed a chance of the game with a near-post header which didn't even threaten Hedriski's goal. It's a point for both sides. It keeps them on track, but Union not able to capitalise on Dortmund's slip-up last night. Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen look ahead to Cologne on Friday, while Union look to continue their spectacular season away to Augsburg. Full time in the German capital, Union Berlin 0, Bayer Leverkusen 0.
That's really a result that doesn't really do much for either team. Bayer Leverkusen will go on to 48 points. Union Berlin on 56 points. And they really have missed an opportunity to maybe have any chance of winning the German Bundesliga. And with that draw, their hopes probably die with it. Union Berlin 0, Bayer Leverkusen 0. To Patrick Norret now to tell us about the Brentford goal that changes the course of this relegation battle.
Yeah, it does. And it was also against a run of play because it was a stupid free kick to give away just outside the box. And Ivan Toney stepped up, took his time, and the way he took it is quite amazing. He does it the same way he does his penalties. Just stepped back, took it back, and just, how can I call it, a cutter inside the foot, and he just got it inside the post. A great goal. So with 84 gone, it's now evens. Brentford 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
5 minutes left in the game, Patrick. How do you see that goal changing the tide of that game? Is it going to be a sucker punch for Nottingham Forest, or do you think they'll have to have it in them to do what they did at Liverpool last week and come down from those sucker punches?
I think now with, the time left, they might as well, if they can't win the game, don't lose the game because they were in the way of winning it. But this is football. Anything can happen. So I think now what they should be doing is really see if they can nick another one. If not, do not lose the game. 85 gone. Still, Brentford 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
Don't lose the game. That's the message from Patrick Norret. Don't lose the game would have been the message from Julian Lopetegui. But with that goal in the 5th minute, that's completely gone out the window. And then about 80 minutes later, that's now nowhere to be seen near the house because Brighton have run absolutely right in their game 6-0. I think I'm safe to say, Matt Smith, that Wolves won't be getting back into this game.
I think you're right. I think Wolves have, They've got nothing going forward. They really haven't. Brighton have had some very good chances to extend that lead. It could have been 7. It could have been 8. Billy Gilmore received the ball just outside the Wolves box, and he's leathered it. It's almost one of those little worm burner shots. It skidded across the grass, and it's just gone wide of Jose Sar's goal. The Wolves fans in the corner of the Amex the numbers are dwindling as expected, and I think rightly so. It's an absolute embarrassment. From minute 1 to we're in the 84th minute now. It's not what they know the Wolves players can do. It's certainly not what Lopetegui set out to do, and he knows his team can do better. But in a way, you can look at this and go, well, this is De Zerbi at his best in a way. Yes, he doesn't have to use his starting 11. Doesn't have to use his top players. It's he's been able to rotate against what we thought was a good Wolves side. An informed Wolves side. But it's Pedro Neto's just come off. Adama Traore has come on. I think it's just a matter of fresh legs and just maybe, like you said, damage limitation. Mitoma is on as well, and he's causing trouble down that left wing. Enciso and Mitoma down that left wing, that seems to be a trouble. Whoever's playing left wing for Brighton, that's where they get a lot of their chances. It's 85 minutes played. Brighton and Hove Albion 6, Wolves 0.
To Sunderland now, and where time is running out, time that is so crucial and pivotal to the Black Cat season, and the more they lose of it, the more chance they won't be in the Premier League next year, Jack Essen.
Yeah, we're coming into the closing stages, and Sunderland really aren't creating anything so far that is showing that they want to equalise in this game. Watford, however, on the other hand, defensively are really well structured. It's backs to the walls for them now, and as well, this game is getting away from both teams. Tackles flying everywhere, bookings coming in as well. It's really stopping any kind of flow for Sunderland to get any kind of advantage on the game. They really need to start getting some shots on goal in the later stages, otherwise they're going to end up losing out. 88 minutes played at Sunderland 1, Watford 2.
There's a reason why this is so important to this Sunderland team, why this result really isn't good for them, because Coventry and Warwickshire have now climbed to 5th place. They'll be 5th, Millwall will be 6th. Blackburn and West Brom will both have a game in hand on Sunderland. If they win their games throughout the rest of this week, they will climb above Sunderland. Blackburn will come to 67 points. West Brom will grow to 66 points. That means that Sunderland will be sitting in 9th place. There will be 3 teams between them and a place in the playoff and an opportunity to regain their Premier League status for next season. That's going to be with 1 game week remaining. That's next week. So really a loss and a Blackburn and West Brom win would all but seal their playoff hopes and all but bury them in the ground, dead and buried until next year. If they can just get 1 point, if they can just find 1 goal, they will have a little bit more hope going into next week. There is so much riding on that game. There's so much riding in the 3 games that we've got going on so far. Brighton and Wolves, that's pretty much dead and buried. But for Brentford and Nottingham Forest as well, if Nottingham Forest can find a goal in that season, they might be in the Premier League next year as well, maybe along with Sunderland. Who knows? Thank you all to the reporters so far as well who have joined us in this game. Jamie and Gage Morgan have gone, but Liam Jones is back. We're going to be with him shortly. Tell us about his game and the team news between AC Milan and Roma, a game that really will decide who gets Champions League football next season in the Italian leagues. For the rest of the scores around Europe, there's 7 minutes added on time at the Stadium of Light as well. That's 7 minutes for Sunderland to maybe get something in that game. But as you said, time is running out. Time that they cannot afford to lose. In the Bundesliga, the results of full-time were followed. FC Cologne, they lost to Freiburg 0-0. Freiburg, who take another step closer to getting Champions League for next season. Frankfurt and Augsburg drew 1-1. Frankfurt were 2-0 up in that game at one point, but the VAR decision that ruled that game out pretty much all but sealed it. RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim 1-0. Stuttgart 2, Mönchengladbach 1, Union Berlin 0, Leverkusen 0. We've got 2 minutes to the Femi and the team, so let's get some action and updates. We'll go to Brentford and Nottingham Forest. 90 minutes into that game. We're in the dying embers of that tie, Patrick Norret.
Yeah, it's still the same. They're both trying to get another goal, but I think Forest now probably think, you know what, we're going to take what we've got and see if we go away from here with a 1-1. So with 90 gone and just looking at maybe an extra probably 2 minutes, still Brentford 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Just on a note that Danilo's gone off to score up. Looks to me like a hamstring injury, so I hope they're going to miss him, but he's the one that got the goal. So with 91 now, Brentford 1, Nottingham Forest 1.
Nottingham Forest might be happy with the point. However, there has been 7 minutes added on at the GK Stadium. So surely with that amount of time, they might look towards getting the 3 points. And now briefly to the Stadium of Light and to Sunderland and Watford, because they've played 3 minutes of the 7 added on there. 5 minutes to go there, Jack Essen.
Yeah, and Watford are holding on, as we keep mentioning, defensively. They're really structured. Really, Sunderland can't get much in. There was a penalty shout, however, when a Watford player brought down, I believe that was Luke O'Nien, in the edge of the area. Perhaps had a shout looking at the replay, but the referee waved play on. Of course, no VAR in the English Championship. Yeah, this is on a knife edge here. And well into 90 plus minutes of added time. Sunderland 1, Watford 2.
The scores around the grounds as well across the rest of Europe. It's Lille who are beating AC Ajaccio 3-0 at half-time. And Elche, they've run right in the Spanish Liga. 73 minutes gone there since the Rayo Vallecano red card. They are now winning 4-0 at home in that tie. 2 minutes have been added on at Brentford as well. All the Premier League games, apart from the Brighton game, are so perfectly balanced. But right now, we've got to go with Femi and the team.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM, powered by NairaBet, with Josh Bailey.
It's why we love this sport, because there's been a goal at Brentford.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And there's been a goal at Sunderland.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
2 goals in 2 games that could change the future of all the teams involved in those ties. We're going to head to the GK Stadium first, because it is the Bees that have stung the Forest, and they now lead 2-1 in injury time, Pachinarette.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you about the VAR in a minute, but it is a goal. And it was about 15 passes they put around the box. Eventually, the ball came to Josh Da Silva on the right-hand side. He cut inside on the left foot, went in, and took a shot, bottom left-hand corner, and wonderful goal, wonderful build-up. But there was a VAR check. And looking at the VAR check, right, it was a boot, about what? Not even, I would say, about 2 inches. He was onside. The boot of the defender played him on. They checked it. Well, with 99 gone now, it's Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
And to the Stadium of Light, because Sunderland have found an equaliser in a playoff race that is so often decided by margins, and they managed to claw themselves back from 2 goals down to rescue a point, Jack Hesson.
Well, it was an absolute worldie from Paddy Roberts on the right-hand side to save Sunderland's skin and keep them with a little bit more of a better chance than what they would have had they lost this game in the playoff race. After such a difficult game for them, going 2 goals down, Ryan Porteous' goal in the 70th minute looked like that was that. Luke O'Nien had an instant impact when he got on the end of Pritchard's shot at the back post to make it 2-1. And then in the 95th minute, Sunderland kept huffing and puffing, and they blew Watford's house down in emphatic fashion. He takes the ball at the edge of the box and just curls it, and it's a looping, curling effort right into the top right-hand corner. One of the goals of the season in the English Championship, no doubt. And it gives Sunderland, for all their efforts today, a deserved point and an excellent opportunity in the last day of the season to potentially grab that playoff spot. Full time at the Stadium of Light. It's Sunderland 2, Watford 2.
How crucial will that goal be? We're going to go back to the GK Stadium. 100 minutes have been played in that game, and it's still going on, Pachinarette. Are Forest going to get an equaliser? Will there be one last twist in this relegation maze?
I think it's going to be hard, because they're going to try to throw men forward and trying to get this goal. I can't see it happening at the moment. I think it's desperate at the moment. They're trying to play long ball, but it's not going to work, because I can't see it happening. So, like you say, with 100 minutes played now, the whistle's going to blow soon. It's still Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
And the whistle has blown in that game. So it is Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 1. All new fans of Femi at halftime were calling for the game to be called off against Brighton and Wolves while we were away with Femi and our team in Nigeria. That full-time whistle did blow. And as well as we got our full-time report from Jack Hesson, we are going to be with him shortly just to discuss those games and that game and how crucial that equaliser could be. We've just had kickoff between Roma and AC Milan. There is so much to get through, isn't there, so far? So much to be. But for right now, we're going to start at the Amex Stadium and to Brighton and Wolves. That game was done at half-time. If there was a rule that could make the games end early, Wolves probably would have opted in for it, wouldn't they, Matt Smith? Because it was an absolute rout. It was an embarrassment from the South Coast for Wolves. But what a day for Brighton, and a day that may see them take one huge leap towards European football next year.
Yeah, it's a huge boost. It's a goal fest at the Amex. It only took them 6 minutes, and Dennis Undav scored the first goal after a Welbeck backheel assist that made it 1-0. On the 13th minute mark, Pascal Gross slotted a ball past Jose Sarr to make it 2-0. On the 26th minute, Enciso set up Gross again, those two combining once again. This time it was a fantastic volley from Pascal Gross right into the top corner to make it 3-0. In the 39th minute mark, Berbis Estupiñán crossed the ball deep into the Wolves box. Danny Welbeck was 5 yards out from goal. He couldn't miss his header, and he put it past Jose Sarr to make it 4-0. That was only half-time. I need to take a breath, goodness me. 48 minutes, so 3 minutes into the second half, Danny Welbeck doubled his tally for the day with a fantastic left foot strike into the bottom corner to make it 5-0. And on the 66th minute mark, Dennis Undav got his second. Jose Sarr with a calamitous pass out to Mateus Nunez. He lost it to Undav, and Undav with maybe the pick of the bunch maybe today with a cheeky little lob over Jose Sarr to make it 6-0. It's a day to forget for Wolves fans, an embarrassment, a 6-0 thrashing, but for Brighton, it's a big boost towards those European spots. 2 for Welbeck, 2 for Gross, and 2 for Undav. It's finished at the Amex. Brighton and Hove Albion 6, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
It's a day today, isn't it, Matt, that really does reflect and show how far Brighton have come under Robert De Zerbi and how well he's done as the manager and the magic he's sprinkled on this Brighton team. Today, with this win, they now go for a club record 15th top flight win of the season, and they also go to 52 points, which equals their best tally in the Premier League. Today, all the stars have aligned and really shows how far they've come under Robert De Zerbi, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they probably deserve it. I think, after De Zerbi's work, after coming in, he is some manager. He really is. And, people are starting to put him in the talking of bigger jobs. But I think he's very happy at Brighton. I certainly would be. He's really getting them playing some fantastic football. And he's finding these sort of hidden gems, Matoma, for pennies in terms of the Premier League sort of transfer fees as such. They've got a certainly maybe a little bit of a difficult run in towards the end of the season. They've got Manchester United, Everton and Arsenal as their next 3 games. So United and Arsenal games are going to be tough. Everton might be a little bit of a breeze. We'll have to wait and see for that one. But I think if you're a Brighton fan, you're looking at De Zerbi's football. You're looking at the results that they're getting, and the fact that they're linked with this João Pedro from Watford, 30 million price tag. They're in talks with that. And it's almost as if you look at that and you go, well, Danny Welbeck scoring goals. Evan Ferguson was scoring goals before he got injured. Do they necessarily need a striker? Can they rely on Welbeck and Ferguson? If they can score goals from anywhere on the pitch and players of any position are scoring the goals, then, what's the problem?
They're doing absolutely phenomenally. Where is the ceiling for this Brighton team, Matt? What can they achieve next season? Where will the heights? Where are the heights to be hit? Shall we say?
I think they have to think, I think they think short term to start with. I think if they can try and grab any sort of European football, that's a massive boost. If they can get any sort of European football, whether it's Conference League, whether it's Europa League, if they get themselves European football, that's a massive, huge boost. And the Brighton fans are going to be walking around with their chest out, as will De Zerbi. I think next season, that's a different story. If they get European football, goodness me, you're going to be attracting the bigger names that are going to want to come and play for them, like Newcastle are doing now. You look at Newcastle and you go, okay, they're probably guaranteed Champions League football now. So, the bigger names from Europe, the PSGs and those sort of teams are going to look at the Premier League and go, now that's the move that I want now. They're a new team. They're going to be looking for players to improve. And I think that's what will happen in the new season after the summer.
As for Wolves, a quick word on them, a day to forget for them. How important is them? Do you think that this result could possibly be the poison for them? Maybe, I want to say poison their minds going into the last couple of weeks of the season? Or do you think it's sort of just been one that they'll say, bad day at the office, brush their shoulders off, pick themselves up and go again next week?
I think Wolves have to look at it in the same way that I think Brighton have looked at it. Brighton lost against United on penalties, Manchester United, and they lost against Nottingham Forest more recently. So I think Wolves have to look at this game and they look, they've got Villa next. It's a big derby, Midlands derby, and they have to look at that and go, right, this is our time to bounce back. There's no pressure. We forget the game that's happened today. We forget that, and we move on to our next game. It's a big game against Aston Villa. But I think they have to let it go now. It's 6-0. Fair enough. It's an absolute drubbing. It's an embarrassment. They'll be talking about it in their little circles for 3 or 4 days. But they have to look forward, and I think Lopetegui will let this game go and he'll look forward. He's not the sort of manager to really sort of hold on to those games and those results. He's a very classy manager, as De Zerbi is. So we'll wait and see next week and see if they can get a result against Villa.
We will have to see indeed. Thank you very much, Matt Smith. A very incredible game. One that we'll be talking about for a while yet, and one that you have watched over. Before we head over to get our full-time reports from Patrick Norret and Jack Hessen, we're quickly going to get an update from Liam Jones around watching AC Milan v Roma. 7 minutes gone there. Huge, massive game at the Stadio Olimpico. Leon, how's the opening few minutes gone there?
Yeah, it's a bit cagey to start. I think neither side wants to give away the first goal. I mean, Roma, big defeat last week, 3-1 to Atalanta, which has blown the top four race wide open in the Serie A. These two teams start 4th and 5th, respectively. Roma, they love playing at home in 2023. They've won 7 of their 8 games and not conceded in those 7 wins. It's a massive game for both sides. I think, if I'm honest, Roma might have started the better. Tammy Abraham's getting in behind that Milan defence, but he's not had a shot yet, but he's making some good runs. But 8 minutes gone here, the opening exchanges, it's Roma 0, Milan 0.
To the other Matthew Key, because it's the Matthews who are bringing the goals today. 3-0. Lille are currently beating AC Hesio right now. Half-time has been and gone, and they're a couple of minutes into the second half, Matthew.
Yeah, that's right, Josh. We're 6 minutes into this second half now. Really interesting, actually, at half time. Obviously, get the team talks at half time. Ajaccio, their team was out really early in the second half, a good 5 minutes before it was kicking off. They stood in the halfway line. They had a team talk together, all of them there. There was quite obviously some choice words being spoken, but they've got to stick together. I mean, they're in a difficult position in the league, but I don't think there's really much they could have done about any of the Lille goals. They've all been full of quality, and I wouldn't say it's been a lack of heart like we heard at Wolves. I think it's just been a lack of quality that's shown. So they've got to stick together, give it their all of this second half, and that old cliche of trying to win it, because it certainly looks like game over. But they need to pick up some positives for the rest of this season, and of course going into next year. But yeah, 7 minutes gone in the second half. Lille looking totally comfortable. It's Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
To Patrick Norret now, who watched over a Brentford side who turned the tides on Nottingham Forest, coming from 1-0 down to triumph 2-1, thanks to Ivan Toney scoring 2 goals respectively. It means jubilation for Brentford, but heartbreak for Nottingham Forest, who with that defeat stay in the relegation zone, or stay within 1 point of the relegation zone. So I say they're currently 17th, only 1 point in front of Leicester, with them having a game in hand on them. Patrick, your full-time report, please, in what is a big day in the Premier League.
Yeah, very much so. I thought for the first 45 minutes, there was nothing in it until Danilo got his goal from the corner on basically 1 minute into extra time. The second half is quite, after the first 10 minutes, nothing was happening. Then Brentford made a few changes. De Silva came on, and Wisser as well. And then Kuniti had to come on for Forest because Johnson got injured. And I thought, well, it's going to go that way. Nothing's going to happen until on the 82nd minute, there was a foul, and Tony stood up and took to the free kick, and bottom left-hand corner, he curled it. That made it 1-1. And then you thought to yourself, right, okay, will he be 1-1 at the end of the day? Then we had 7 minutes of extra time. In the 4th minute of extra time, you had De Silva. I got to tell you this, the actual passing, I counted about 15 passes. I think at the time I said 10. I haven't seen it again. It was 15 passes around the box. De Silva got the ball on the right-hand side, jinked inside on left, but jinked inside, and then whipped the ball in, bottom left-hand corner. How he squeezed that ball in, I don't know, and made it 2-1 to Brentford. What I would say about that is that I felt that their shape was good. It's just that they cancelled each other out. But I think at the end of the day, I thought Brentford played well, so did Nottingham Forest. It's just that a brilliant genius from De Silva to get that goal in. So it finished with Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
This has got to be a result, Patrick, that could be incredibly dangerous for Nottingham Forest. When they were 1-0 up at half-time, you felt like they had the wind in their sails, pushing them towards relegation, pushing them away from relegation and towards Premier League safety. But that last equaliser really is a sucker blow, really put some holes in their sails, shall we say. And you might want to worry them about what this last-minute defeat could do for them.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when they get in the dressing room, they probably think, look, we've got about 4 minutes left. Can we hold on? They won't really hold it on. Their team shape was good, but sometimes when you've got brilliance like that, you can't do much. They were set right. He done it twice, actually. This is the Silva. He pushes in. He plays. He's a right footer who plays. He's a left footer who plays on the right. So what he does, he comes in on his left foot. He did that twice. He got a corner. The second time around, he decided, you know what? Let me take a shot, and he took a shot. And I couldn't see him getting that shot in there. And there was a VAR call as well. And obviously they got it right. But no, they do play good football. I enjoyed it. It wasn't box to box stuff. It was really, I would say, like a chess game, a very tactical game. And one mistake or one bit of brilliance would get you the win, and they did. So Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
How impressed as well, before we let you go, Patrick, have you been with Ivan Toney? Because, like we said, he had that unwanted record of scoring every other game. He put that to bed today with 2 goals on the score sheet for him. He is a real special player, isn't it? It's probably a matter of time before he gets a move to a bigger club.
To be honest, he didn't do a lot today. He was well shackled. Whether the way they played it, they weren't playing a lot of long balls into him. They actually tried to pass it today. It's different the way they played. And they played for corners and also for long throws. But he wasn't in the game that much. But when he is in the game, he leads the line well. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe someone will probably, as a centre forward, you want to hold up the play. He's good at heading, good at crossing, good at heading, and also the other thing is good at taking penalties. He doesn't miss them. I think he missed 1 in the last how many he's taken, and free kick. I didn't know he was that good. He is very good. So yes, I could see someone coming in for him, and that's what Brentford do. They get these players from the lower leagues, get them in, sell them on, and get someone else to replace them.
Thank you very much, Patrick. A brilliant game that you watched over a game that really does play so much into this relegation battle. And we have another goal of the afternoon.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It's Lille with their 4th of the evening. And to Matthew Key, tell us about the goal.
Yes, another goal for Lille and another goal for Remy Cabella in midfield. That's 2 for the midfield maestro duo of Andre Gomez and Remy Cabella. And it's another simple goal for Cabella. It's a beautiful ball whipped in by Zagovra, the number 10 for Lille. It was headed by Jonathan David. Brilliant save by the keeper, but Cabella was there to tap in. No help for Leroy in the Ajaccio goal. There is a check for VAR for an offside, but at the minute it's Lille 4, Ajaccio 0. And I suppose the only surprise now is that Jonathan David's yet to add his name to the score sheet. Wait for that VAR check, but for the time being, it's Lille 4, Ajaccio 0.
About time that Jonathan David could get on the score sheet. So maybe expect this scoreline is going to go up. To Jack Essen now, who watched over a brilliant game between Sunderland and Watford. And Jack, it's a game that gives Sunderland a little bit of hope of securing playoffs next for this season. However, it's also a result that maybe closes the door on that slightly.
Yeah, a little bit of hope. I mean, all the drama at the end of the fixture, they've got that equaliser, they avoided a loss, but really going into this game, you thought they're playing a team who are all but out this season in 13th place. They've got nothing to play for, and they couldn't snatch a win against them. It's not good enough, really, if they're looking for that playoff spot, and it really muddies the state of play. They've got Blackburn just behind them, a point behind them, playing on Monday night against Luton. Should they win, they'll go level on 68 points with Millwall, and Blackburn versus Millwall play at the end of the season. So Sunderland then will be relying on those two to draw to just even match up with them. They do have better goal difference in both of them. It really does complicate things. When they looked at this, if they'd have won today, they'd have been level in points with Millwall in 6th place, but they would have been in that 6th place spot because of their goal difference, and now they're relying on other results. They'll be disappointed with that, but I think overall perhaps a good season, and they've done really well to salvage a point today.
I think that's kind of, you've got to buy context, haven't you, to Sunderland, because as we said, they, even though they might miss out on Champions League, on playoffs this year, it's been a very good season from them. Bearing in mind they only came up last year, so it's definitely something to build on for them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, something to build on. They've got players there. If they're able to keep players like Patrick Roberts and Amad Diallo, who are the real creative threats for them, then, and build a system and a style around them, because I think they've got flair players, they've got good players with attacking talents, but they really don't know how to hone that into a style that will win them even more games. I said it's baby steps. Listen, a couple of years ago, if you'd have gave a Sunderland fan the position they're in right now, they would have snapped your hand off. And I think overall, at the end of the season, regardless of what happens, playoff or not, they'll be happy with how things have went this year.
They will be very happy. Thank you very much, Jack Hessen. A game that really could have consequences, like all the games as we get to the end of the season and on Football Live. Sunderland coming from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with Watford and giving themselves a little bit of hope going into the final game week of the Championship season. Next week is not going to be a weekend that you want to miss. 0-0. 2-0, 2-2 in that game. Well, that brings an end to our 3 o'clock kickoffs then, and that means that we move the focus onto the 2 games that we've got going on currently. None of them in England, unfortunately, but all of them in Europe. AC Milan, Roma v AC Milan, and Lille v AC Ajaccio. We're going to go to Leon Jones now because the game that Lille scored, the goal that Lille... we're going to Leon Jones, sorry, we're going to go to Matthew Key for now because the goal that Lille scored means it's been ruled out, Matthew.
Yeah, ruled out, Josh. There's still 3-0 to Lille here, and it was Cabella that was in an offside position. When David headed the ball, he was in front of his striker, and when Leroy saved it, came back out to Cabella, tapped it in, but he was in offside position. Was a tight one there to draw the lines, but in the end, they've come to the right decision. But yeah, a bit of respite, but still 62 gone, and it's Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
And now we go to Leon Jones because 20 minutes gone in the Roma v AC Milan match, a game that coming into the tie, both teams level on points, level on goal difference. How can you tell from this side of the Stadio Olimpico, Leon?
Yeah, I mean, it's the very even start so far. It's been a little bit stop and start with an injury to Kumbula for Roma. It was a bit innocuous. He just clashed with Giroud, went down and was clutching his knee. He tried to carry on, but he has been subbed off for a midfielder, Bove. I think that means Matic will drop back to centre-back for Roma, which is something he did in his Manchester United days. But yeah, it's been a cagey start, like I was saying before. Roma, they've tried to get him behind with Belotti and Abraham, but Tomori, he's been pretty good at the back, but he has just picked up a booking for tackling Tammy Abraham too strong. But yeah, it's been a close game so far between the two sides. Some of the 4 changes Mourinho have made, they've been enforced due to injuries, and one of the players that are missing today is Paulo Dybala. He's fit enough for the bench, but he went off against Atalanta with an injury. So that could be a damaging blow to Roma's top 4 hopes this season. But yeah, 18 minutes gone. It's Roma 0, AC Milan 0.
It's been a fantastic afternoon on Football Live. And what else can you expect? Because this is the greatest show in the world.
Our partners at NairaBet are back with another special offer. Get 500 Naira free every time a Nigerian player scores. With 41 goals combined this season, how many will Mofi, Chukwueze, Iheanacho, Iwobi and Ndidi net you? When they score, so do you. To qualify, head over to NairaBet and make sure you include the following games in your ACCA. Villarreal versus Celta Vigo, Troyes versus Nice, Leicester versus Everton. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more details. ACCA must be placed by midnight tonight. Minimum stake required is 500 Naira. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly.
Football Live is back tomorrow from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Fulham take on Manchester City.
Fulham come from Championship and the season have been amazing.
And Liverpool.
But much more important that we win the game, man.
Against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM.
It is drama you will not want to miss.
Well, against all the odds, Bournemouth are taking the lead. Not a single shot on target up to this point.
Yeah, it was a James Ward-Prowse classic. He just kills it beautifully.
Well, it's been absolute chaos.
Yes, Josh. Football's a cruel game. You can have all the possession you want, but if you don't put the ball at the back of the net.
It was, again, Kate and Son, like the good old days.
But this show never disappoints.
Yes, well, it's Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 1 here, and it's Eberechi who's got the goal.
Oh my word, Josh. I cannot believe how Phil Foden has not made this 2-0.
Yes, Barry, it's a second goal for Borussia Dortmund, and the Die Schwarz are running away with it now.
Football Live, the preview show with myself, Barry Swain, returns on Monday, exclusive to Brilla FM. It's where I take a look back at all of the action in today's show and tomorrow's show on Brilla FM and Football Live. And we also hear from the managers, we hear from the players, we take a look at who's going to win the leagues, who's going into Europe, and who will get relegated. It's all on Football Live, the preview show, this Monday, exclusive on Brilla FM.
Today's show is powered by Hollandia and Chivita.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brilla FM with Football Live.
But it always starts with us.
All the key action from around Europe's top leagues.
Wow. Just wow.
You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM, powered by NairaBet. Have your say on today's action and interact with Brilla FM on Twitter at Brilla FM 889, on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM, and on Instagram, Brilla FM 889. Welcome back to Football Live on Brilla FM.
Latest big match odds with NairaBet.
Yes, the latest odds on NairaBet. Of course, all the prices are subject to change. We're covering the Milan-Roma game. Well, I'll say Roma-Milan game. They are playing at Roma. 23 minutes gone. It's still 0-0. As you heard from Leon Jones, Roma are 3.10 for the win, 2.60 for the draw, and 3.0 for a Milan win. Lille is suspended for Lille as expected. But if we give you some inside odds for that game, if you think there's going to be 4 or more goals, the odds as it stands is 3.40. If you think it's going to be more than 5 goals or more, well, in fact, over 5.5 goals, the accurate description would be is 9.0. Still 3-0 at the moment. They played 67 minutes, so there's still chance for some goals happening in that game. If you look ahead, there's a couple of games that are starting up very, very shortly. Real Madrid are 1.12 for a home win against Almeria, which starts in about probably 5 or 6 minutes or so. The draw is 11.0. And an away win for Almeria is a very healthy 21.0. So if you think Almeria will come, will defeat Real Madrid, of course, they're at the back of that loss to Girona by 4-1 a few days ago. So everything is possible. Barcelona are playing tonight at 8 p.m. Barcelona are 1.40 for the win. The draw is 5.25. And Real Betis, of course, their opponents tonight are 7.50. Finally, in the German Bundesliga, kickoff also in about 5 minutes or so. Schalke and Werder Bremen. Schalke are 2.3808. The draw is 3.75. And finally, Werder Bremen away win is 2.88. And of course, all these odds are from NairaBet and are subject to change.
So as we said, all the Premier League games are done, and the majority of European games that we are following, we've still got AC Milan, Roma v AC Milan, and Lille v AC Ajaccio. So that's the games we're going to be covering. We're also going to be having conversations with our resident football expert, John Kane, throughout the rest of the show. And then in half an hour, we'll be done. It's been absolute fun. This brilliant show, as always, so unique, so different. And it always replies us with all the drama and all the goals. I hope you've enjoyed today as much as I have. But I've said half an hour to go. So let's get going then. I'm going to start with Leon Jones and Roma v AC Milan. Matic has been booked for an awful tackle. We know this Roma team really is built under Jose Mourinho to have fighting spirit, to pick up yellow cards, to pick up red cards. And they're showing that on this game, Leon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, it's a bad tackle from Matic. Benassa, he's brought the ball out, taking a touch, and then Matic he's jumped in with a flying knee. I thought I was watching Conor McGregor in the UFC. It was a flying knee from Matic, but he's only received a yellow card, not even checked for a red card. But I think that in the Premier League, that one might have been a red card. But in the last game between these two, it finished 2-2, and there was 12 bookings. So that sort of sets the tone of what to expect today, I think. Not long after that yellow card, Calabria had a chance down the right-hand side for Milan. He put it into the box, but no one was betting on that ball getting there, and nothing came of that cross. But 27 minutes gone here. It's been a bit cagey. There's been another few injuries. Teo Hernandez is down now. So, yes, the pace of the game is not really in the game. But it's Roma 0, AC Milan 0.
And now to Lille and to Matthew Key. Andre Gomez is off, so no hat-trick for the midfield today, but still a brilliant day at the office for him and his team, Matthew.
Yes, brilliant day for him, and thoroughly deserved the warm reception he got as he went off the pitch. He was replaced by another Andre, but it was Benjamin Andre in that midfield. And Timothy Ware has also come on for the home team, obviously son of legendary Liberian striker George Weah, only African player to ever win the Ballon d'Or. Interestingly, though, he's a striker by trade, but slotted in at left back as he has done for quite a lot of the season due to various injuries and what have you. So, yeah, an interesting position for him, but one that he's clearly filling in well, and he'll have plenty of opportunities to get forward here in these last 20 minutes, you feel. 72 gone, and it's Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
We have no reporters in the Spanish capital between the game of Real Madrid v Almeria. However, we will be giving you goal updates as they go in for the next half an hour. A game that probably doesn't have so much say in terms of the La Liga title race. However, it does have a lot of say for the Real Madrid title in terms of Real Madrid season, because they still have the Copa del Rey final coming up, as well as the Champions League semi-final against Manchester City. So there is going to be a lot to play for Real Madrid, and they don't want to let their season slide. We will also be giving you updates of West Brom v Norwich. I've spoken how important this game is for either team. They're 9th and 12th in the table currently, respectively. A win for either team today would bring them within fighting chance of a top 6 place in the championship and a date with the playoffs. So West Brom, a win would take them to 66 points. Wouldn't move them in to the playoff places. However, it would bring them to 7th. It would bring them behind Sunderland, depending on the amount of goals. If they win by 5 or more, they'll be above them, but it would bring them to 2 points behind the playoffs. And then as for Norwich, well, they need a win to stay within playoffs. A loss today will see them staying in the championship for another season, but a win will bring them to 64 points, which, as by my calculations, by my mistake, will also mean they won't be in the playoffs. So due to the results today, well, Norwich won't be in the playoffs. They will be in the playoffs. I'm getting confused. There's so many maths, and maths isn't my strong point, but there's so much possibility on this show and so many different ways the games can go. They are on 62 points, so obviously 62 plus 3 is 65. So they will move within a fighting chance of the playoff position. They're with 65 points. That will mean that they'll go with goal difference of 6, depending on the results, and will put themselves within a chance. But results will have to go their way desperately. But a win today will see them with a chance of going into the playoffs. If they lose, however, they won't. There we go. We're all up straight. We all understand. I'm on board. You're on board. We all get it. Around the other grounds in England as well, a lot was going on, because Plymouth, because there were promotions in League One into the Championship and promotions from League Two into League One. Plymouth and Ipswich were both promoted respectively. Plymouth were promoted with their 20th home win of the season. That's a new club record, and they were playing in the Championship for the first time since 2010. They've been absent from the Championship for 13 years, but not anymore, because the 2023-2024 season will be in the second tier of English football. As to Ipswich as well, well, their 18 league unbeaten streak, their longest run over 20 years, has seen them go into the playoff spots and book their place in the Championship next season. They also scored 99 goals as well. It's been a magical season for Ipswich, and they will be returning to the Championship. A big team that have been languishing in the lower leagues for far too long. And as for Stevenage as well, they'll be playing in League One for the first time since 2013-2014, as they joined Leyton Orient as the second team to be promoted from League Two. And as well, Hartlepool were relegated from League Two. They'll be back in the National League next year. A devastating team, a devastating time if you're a Hartlepool fan. So you're up to date with all the games around Europe, with all the results around England. And it's time to bring in John Kane, because we've got so much to get through, so much to talk, John. And I want to start where you picked off. I want to start off with Chelsea, because we haven't heard from you from an hour or two. I'm sure our audience, have missed you. I'm wondering where you've gone. But we will start with Chelsea, because we were talking about Frank Lampard, and maybe he's dealt a hard deal. how much has Todd Bowley got to blame for the position that Chelsea are in at the moment? How much lies on his doorstep within the Chelsea grounds?
I think when you actually look at the chairman of Chelsea Football Club, he gave the money, didn't he? He actually gave Graham Potter the money. Now, what I would love to know, and I'm sure Chelsea fans would love to know, was did Graham Potter had a say in any of the transfers that happened in the winter? Because they brought on about five. I don't think this is the first time I even said that. I said it before. They bought about 4, 5, 6 players, and they spent $500 million, which is quite a lot of money for any club, especially nowadays. Yeah, no, that number 9 that I keep talking about all the time is not there. They brought in Modric, they brought in a few others who actually spent a lot of money on. But where's the guy who can come in and score goals week in, week out? There isn't one. And you can't rely on someone like Kai Havertz because that's not his job. Mason Mount is not his job. Modric is not his job. Romelu Lukaku is a player on loan. I don't know if there's a clause in his contract to bring him back, but at least you'll have a proper number 9 to give it a go, going scoring forward. So when it comes to actually blaming the owner, it's very hard because he has invested. He just came on this season and he invested heavily. It's very hard to see how can he criticize a chairman in that respect. The only thing I would criticize him on is actually employing Frank Lampard. And I think the problem with the chairman that Chelsea have, I don't think he understands how English football run. He hasn't got that much history about Chelsea Football Club and people who went through Chelsea. Yes, Frank Lampard is a legend in the eyes of Chelsea fans. He's a legend in the eyes of the club as a player, but as a manager, it was a big mistake bringing him back in, and I think that is a problem. That is probably the only big problem that he's done by bringing Frank Lampard back. But in actual support for the club, financially, I think he's been spot on.
I'm not sure how much I agree with that. I don't know, like Todd Bowley, and like you said, I feel like you touched upon it there, John, with the fact that he really he approached it. I feel like he's approached it like an American sport. He's the owner of the Chicago baseball team, the Chicago Cubs, out in America. And in American sports, and I'm a little bit familiar with them, there's a real focus on young players and the fact that you bring young players in, you invest in young players because that's where the capital is. And it feels like he's approached that in football. You look at the transfer policy that he's approached with, and the fact that he's gone with all these young players, and that's not how football works. Young players are a project, young players are an investment, and you can't really put so much belief and so much trust in young players to be the future of this football club and such a big club like Chelsea. So as a manager, as an owner, he has such a key say. He's brought the money, but then he's also got a responsibility of where they spend that money. He's done that wrong. And I also think another thing that Todd Bowley doesn't do great is how involved he is with the team. He wants to be like an American owner in the clubs. He wants to have a real say. You've seen him giving team talks in the dressing room. That's not what a general owner and an owner does, is it really? So, yes, he's brought the money, but the way he's gone about running the club, I think's wrong, don't you think?
No, I think in that respect, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, he has got lack of understanding of Chelsea Football Club. He's got lack of understanding of the actual Premier League. But it doesn't seem there is someone there who actually got understanding, who worked for the club to explain to him how things work. And that's not his fault in a way. You got these advisors, you got these people who are been at Chelsea for a long time in the board and elsewhere within the club. They should be advising him, shouldn't they, really? If he doesn't know, you can't really help. It's not his fault for not knowing, but it's the people around him. They should be saying something and telling him and advising him on how to run things. I mean, if I end up going to America, for example, and I've run bought one of the basketball teams in the NBA, I would have no clue how the NBA system. Yes, I'll watch it, and I'll watch it not on a regular basis. But in the day, I've got no much understanding in how NBA works there. So my advisor's job will be to advise me on what to do with that basketball team, and likewise for Chelsea. And that's what surprised me. Why didn't no one actually talk to him? Or are they talking to him and he's ignoring him? That could be another scenario. I mean, you look at Chelsea, you spoke about the youngsters. Chelsea had probably the best academy, haven't they? when it comes to youngsters over the last 5-6 years. The players that came out of that academy, it's been brilliant. And the amount of players they had on loan, and almost have been successful over the 3-4 years. I think at one stage, a couple of seasons ago, they had about 30 players on loan, all over England. So I believe there's a goal for us.
There is. There's been a goal at Real Madrid.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Los Blancos have taken an early lead within 5 minutes against Almeria, and that is exactly what Carlo Ancelotti would have ordered before the game, because they now need 1-0, a quick goal that puts any doubts into bed. Real Madrid 1, Almeria 0. Before we go back to John Kane, we're going to get an update from Leon Jones, because Roma have just had a huge chance.
Yeah, big chance for Roma. Lorenzo Pellegrini it was. Leandro Spinazzola drove down the left flank. He cut inside, played it back to Pellegrini. What a chance he had. He hit it with his left foot, and it hit Tammy Abraham, of all people, his own teammate, who blocked it from going in, and that should have been 1-0 to Roma. But unfortunately, Tammy Abraham blocked his own teammate's shot. I mean, this game, other than that chance, has not been able to get going. There's been so many injuries and stoppages. We had an injury at the start of the game for Roma, Kumbula getting subbed off, and Tamori has now gone down with a leg injury, so he's coming off too. Yeah, it's not been a great game, this one, but Roma, they should be 1-0 up. But as it stands, it's Roma 0, Milan 0.
And to Matthew Key, tell us about the closing exchanges in a game that hasn't hit the heights of the first half, has it, Matthew?
No, it's sort of fizzling out, to be honest. Ajaccio, they're quite happy with this 3-0 scoreline. I think you saw what happened with Wolves earlier. You don't want to get absolutely thrashed, and they're keeping it a respectable 3. And to be fair to them, they've been a lot better this second half. Lille just knocking the ball around really nicely, hardly in any danger at all. They've, interestingly enough, they brought 3 Africans onto the pitch. Jonathan Bamba off for Bayo, who's a Guinean international. Kabeya, who's had 1 goal, 40 had 2. He's gone off. He's been replaced by Unas, the Algerian international, and Angel Gomez, who's been really good in the middle of midfield, alongside the 2 goal scorers. He's gone off for Baleba, the Cameroonian international. So, yeah, a lot of African attention onto this one. But as I say, looks like it's going to fizzle out and end 3-0 to Lille. We've got about 10 minutes left, including some extra time. 83 gone. Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
Thank you to Leon Jones and Matthew Key with your updates of the games that are coming into full-time and half-time respectively. We'll bring John Kane back now. John, we'll keep the Chelsea segment short because I want to talk about Mauricio Pochettino as well. However, I think it's really key to look at the games left at Chelsea. You know, they've got Arsenal away, they've got Bournemouth away, they've got Nottingham Forest at home, Manchester City away, Man United away, and then Newcastle at home. On the form they're having and the defeats they're having, you think they're going to lose to Arsenal, they're going to lose to City, they're going to lose to United, and then they're going to lose to Newcastle. Therefore, you're only looking at points respectively against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Chelsea also have a terrible record at the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth, so you can probably think they're not going to get a win there. And then Nottingham Forest, one of their best chance of getting 3 points. They're at the point where all they really need is a point or 3 to be safe next season. But on the slide they're on, do you see them going down? Or, in my opinion, I don't think they will, because I don't see the teams below them in 18th and 19th getting to 39 points. But what do you think on it?
No, I agree. I think if this was happening, let's say a month ago, or maybe more than that, excuse me, a couple of months ago or so, I think Chelsea would be in big trouble, wouldn't they? They would definitely be one of the teams that might get relegated, especially with the run-ins that they have for the next few till between now and the end of the season, and also for the way Frank Lampard is managing Chelsea at the moment. But I think they will survive. I don't think there's an issue them going down. I think Chelsea and Wolves probably the 2 teams, even with that big heavy defeat today to Brighton. I think the both will probably survive. I think it's more or less. I think that both teams are quite lucky that teams are like Southampton, Everton, are throwing points away, haven't they? Literally, you know, it seems like these 2 clubs really want to get relegated. But with Chelsea, I think they're safe. But the thing is, though, you come to the end of the season, if they finish 12th, 13th, 14th, or even 15th, which is still a possibility, is an absolute terrible season for a club. which have been developing so well over the last 20 years or so, especially under Abramovich took over. And for a club who's probably one of the richest in the world, a club who's got massive fan base all over the world, and yet they can't get a point. I mean, to lose to Brentford was a killer, wasn't it? Really? No, just because it's a West London neighbour. It's because Chelsea always looked down at Brentford, and understandably so. With all the respect to Brentford, people, Chelsea fans always looked at Brentford. It's like, yeah, it's a neighbour, but it's the way down neighbour. But that neighbour just came and beat you at Stamford Bridge. So they have got massive problems. And like I said, I'll go back again. Frank Lampard is not the right guy to do it. He's just not the right guy to study the ship at Chelsea. I mentioned Brandon Rodgers, and I'm sure other listeners will probably mention a few others who might probably be better to come in and study the ship. But what happened. Yeah, speaking about Pochettino, I think I always thought probably best for Chelsea and for Spurs to wait till the end of the season to get the proper manager. But I think the caretaker manager at Chelsea is the wrong one. Hence, probably having Pochettino to come in as soon as possible is very, very well-needed move, to be honest, because I think Pochettino will come in with his ideas and probably start shaping up that club straight away.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? And when a new owner comes in, a new culture is installed. And I think that's something that Chelsea fans, if they haven't realised already, probably have to realise that the Abramovich era is over. This serial winner era is over. Abramovich was a serial winner. He installed that culture, a culture that was installed through Jose Mourinho, who was the first manager under the new ownership. When he brought him in, he went straight to Mourinho. Mourinho was pretty much, if not the first manager that they employed, and he installed that winning culture. And then that culture carried on throughout Chelsea. So you probably have a lot to thank by Abramovich and Mourinho. So this is a new era. Todd Bowley, it's a new era, and he needs to install a culture that will last for years and years and years. And we see how important it is at Tottenham with Daniel Levy. He hasn't installed a winning culture, and that's why they haven't won trophies. So for Todd Bowley, he's got to install this winning culture. Pochettino is the man who he's been given to do that, and people will obviously look around and question, well, Pochettino isn't a winner. Maybe you could say that is fair enough with the way he was at Tottenham. However, he's going to install a very good culture. We saw the fact he did that at Tottenham. He changed everything that everyone perceived around Tottenham. And do you think he'll do that at Chelsea? I mean, I believe that he is the correct man to start this new era for Chelsea.
I think so. I definitely think so. I think what people don't realise with Pochettino, and when he was at Tottenham, he took them as far as he can go. With the limitation when it comes to finances and funding that he's been crying about for reinforcements, it cost Spurs the league when Leicester won it. It cost them the league when Chelsea won it the season after. If Daddy Levy and the board at Spurs would have given Pochettino what he wanted, Spurs probably would have been champions of England 5-6 years ago, maybe 2 seasons on the trot, maybe even one of them, or at least gave it a go to the last minute and not finish third in a 2-horse race as it happened. But he needed a bit of funding, which he never got. PSG, what the problem with Pochettino is so many players at PSG who are very high profile. It's not going to be an issue for Pochettino. It's going to be an issue for every single manager who goes to Paris Saint-Germain. They have to deal with Messi, Mbappe, Ramos. They are huge players, and the personality of these players, Neymar, of course, is another one. And when it comes to these people, it's hard to manage. It's impossible to manage. So it's not Pochettino's fault. What is actually he did win Ligue 1 with them, but it didn't go well afterwards. But it's hard to manage PSG. It doesn't matter who it is. And I think Pochettino, if he actually starts at Chelsea, I think it'll be a really good future for them next season.
He's a manager that manages upwards, isn't it? Like we said at PSG, I think that's not reflective of the type of manager that Pochettino is. PSG is very much a place where all managers struggle. You look at Unai Emery, who went there, struggled. Now he's what he's doing at Aston Villa. You see their manager now, Christopher Gaita, won the league with Lille, struggling at PSG. Thomas Tuchel, struggled at PSG, but then won cups with Chelsea, Dortmund, and hopefully we'll get Bayern Munich back to winning ways as well. So, you know, PSG isn't reflective of the type of CV and the type of manager that Pochettino is. And I think the Chelsea fans, if they're not wanting Pochettino, probably need to sort of look at where their club is at the moment and sort of realise that they're not the serial winners that they were before. And actually they need a manager that can manage upwards, manage players, get young players, making them better. And there's no better manager in world football than Pochettino at that. And we saw that respectively. So I think we're both in agreement there, John. We are. And before we continue our conversation, I think that's the Chelsea conversation done. We need to talk about the 3 o'clock kickoffs and Sundays, and we've got 13 minutes, and we've got to get AC Milan and Roma. And that's where we're going to go right now with Leon Jones. 5 minutes added on there, Leon. How's it going?
Oh, it's been a bad game. I mean, I'm going to try and get it up to you so everyone gets down like it's been a good one. But honestly, there's been 2 yellow cards, no shots on target. The biggest chance was still the one I spoke about before with Pellegrini. I think we were talking about there, Jose Mourinho's winning mentality. Well, his Roma side, they're not playing like they want to win this game today. They're playing like they'll be happy with a draw. And I mean, it's understandable why that would be the case. I think they've got an easier run than Milan when it comes to it. And if they don't lose today, they're still in a good position to get top 4. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any goals in this one in the second half. I mean, I think he'll be asking Dybala what fitness he's got, if he can play any minutes in the second half. But as it stands here, we're approaching half time. It's Roma 0, AC Milan 0.
And to Matthew Key, tell us the full-time report at Lille.
Yes, full-time here at Lille at the Stade Pierre-Maury, and it's finished Lille 3, Ajaccio 0. A 16-minute devastating spell from the home team with enough to win this one. 2 goals from Andre Gomez, 1 from Remy Cabella. All very well worked, all very well finished, and that's been enough for Lille today. They pick up 3 points and 3 goals to go alongside Ajaccio. Well, the inevitable gets closer. Relegation back to Ligue 2 is all but confirmed. And yeah, good result for Lille. Ajaccio, they need to pick themselves up and go again next week. It's finished here in France. Lille 3, Ajaccio 0.
Thank you very much, Matthew Key. Well done today, and well done to Lille. 3-0 winners there against Ajaccio, and on the Roma and Milan game as well. Feels like Jose Mourinho, both teams on level on points and level on goal difference. We understand that he plays the game by each one. He doesn't have a set way of playing. He looks at the game. What do they need here? They need a draw here. It's a game that would do so much damage to them if they lost. So a point is probably the best one for them. And it feels like AC Milan will also take the point. So that could be a game that slowly fizzles out. A game that isn't fizzling out is Real Madrid Almeria, because they have doubled their advantage.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
It is now 2-0 to Real Madrid there. It's a Benzema brace. He loves goals. We love goals. And that's why Football Live is the best show in the world.
Our partners at NairaBet are back with another special offer. Get 500 Naira free every time a Nigerian player scores. With 41 goals combined this season, how many will Mofi, Chukwueze, Iheanacho, Iwobi and Ndidi net you? When they score, so do you. To qualify, head over to NairaBet and make sure you include the following games in your ACCA. Villarreal versus Celta Vigo, Troyes versus Nice, Leicester versus Everton. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more details. ACCA must be placed by midnight tonight. Minimum stake required is 500 Naira. 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly.
Football Live is back tomorrow from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Fulham take on Manchester City.
Fulham come from Championship, and the season have been amazing.
And Liverpool.
That's much more important that we win the game, man.
Against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM.
It is drama you will not want to miss.
Well, against all the odds, Bournemouth are taking the lead. Not a single shot on target up to this point.
Yeah, it was a James Ward-Prowse classic. He just kills it beautifully.
Well, it's been absolute chaos.
Yes, Josh. Football's a cruel game. You can have all the possession you want, but if you don't put the ball at the back of the net,
It was again Kate and Son, like the good old days.
But this show never disappoints.
Yes, well, it's Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 1 here, and it's Eberechi who's got the goal.
Oh my word, Josh. I cannot believe how Phil Foden has not made this 2-0.
Yes, Barry, it's a second goal for Borussia Dortmund, and the Dice Watch go on are running away with it now.
Football Live, the previous show with myself, Barry Swain, returns on Monday, exclusive to Brilla FM. It's where I take a look back at all of the action in today's show and tomorrow's show on Brilla FM and Football Live. And we also hear from the managers, we hear from the players, we take a look at who's going to win the leagues, who's going into Europe, and who will get relegated. It's all on Football Live, the previous show, this Monday, exclusive on Brilla FM.
Today's show is powered by Hollandia and Chivita.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brilla FM with Football Live.
But it always starts with us.
All the key action from around Europe's top leagues.
Wow. Just wow.
You are listening to Football Live on Brilla FM, powered by NairaBet. Have your say on today's action and interact with Brilla FM on Twitter at Brilla FM 889, on Facebook at 889 Brilla FM, and on Instagram, Brilla FM 889. Welcome back to Football Live on Brilla FM.
Yes, welcome back. We've got 7 minutes to go until the end of the show, until tomorrow, because we will be back tomorrow. It's a big game. So many Premier League games, 5 or 4. I'm not too sure on the number, though I should probably know, but I don't. I will check shortly, but it's around that, and it is a big day on Football Live. Sunday is the new Saturday, shall we say. We're going to go to Leon Jones now, because it is half-time between Roma and AC Milan. The game that has failed to live up to expectations, Leon.
Yeah, half-time here at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. It's AS Roma 0, AC Milan 0. And it's been a half plagued with injuries. It started off with an injury with Kumbula, and then one later on to Tomori, and then another at the end of the half there to Belotti. No real major chances for Roma. It was Pellegrini, and his shot went right from about 5-6 yards out. It was blocked by his own teammate, Tammy Abraham. And then the biggest chance for Milan was probably at the end of the half there, where they had a corner and it fell to Tomori, but he just couldn't turn it in. It feels like the pressure's got to both sides in that first half. Like you said before, neither side wants to lose. So Mourinho, he'll do what he always does. He'll manufacture a team that is out there to just get a result they need, not a pretty performance. And Roma, I'm sure they'll come out for the second half. Maybe Dybala will come on at half time. Who knows? But it's not a great first half. Let's say that. It's AS Roma 0, AC Milan 0.
Thank you very much, Leon Jones. That will probably spell the end there, because by the time this show ends, the game will not have resumed. So that means all the football games are done on Football Live. How sad. But the end of this is not, because we've got 5 minutes to the end of the show. So let's bring in John Kane for a quick roundup on today's games and a little bit of insight into tomorrow. We'll start quickly then, John, with Brentford, Nottingham Forest today. Brentford and Ivan Toney brace, meaning that they won 2-1. I want to quickly speak about Forest. A huge loss today. How much impact would it have on the rest of their season? Do you think it's a result that could suck them into the relegation zone and condemn their fate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think today's loss wasn't really something that I really wanted, considering that Leicester, Everton, they're just breathing under their necks. Leicester 1 point behind, Everton 2 points behind, with that game in hand, which will be played. So I think playing team like Brentford, they should have, with all respect again to Brentford, but it's a game that should have been won. I believe they were leading by a goal to nil. Correct me if I'm wrong. So something that they should have worked on is going to affect them. Definitely is going to affect them. But it's just it's not good enough. But again, you look at them and you look at the teams around them, they're all dropping points. So even West Ham today, they dropped 3 points. They're 4 points ahead of Forest. So it's just one of them things, isn't it? Sadly,
it is. It's the cruel fate of the relegation battle and of the Premier League. So many times these results are defined by such small margins. At Nottingham Forest today, they're a wrong end of the scoreline, but you've just got to feel that being 1-0 up away at Brentford with an away record, you know that with an away record, and you know that it's hard to come around points. But unfortunately, for Nottingham Forest, they're 1-0 down. And they lost. We'll talk about tomorrow as well. Then quickly, John, Manchester United v Aston Villa, Fulham v Manchester City, Liverpool v Tottenham. It's going to be a big game all across in the Premier League, in the Champions League. I mean, it's going to be a brilliant day, and it's been one that the audience are not going to want to miss.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a great show tomorrow, and the games that are in store. It's all about it's different, isn't it? We've got top 4 relegation. It's all in there, and then all of a sudden you see Villa fighting for it. Brighton today, they was basically giving us a hint. It was like, we're still there for the top 4. Bournemouth Leeds on trouble. Fulham Manchester City, Fulham again. You know, they're trying to not just dent City's hopes off the third successive Premier League title, but also for their sakes. You know, that they're sort of coping and not coping at the same time, aren't they, with the loss of Mitrovic, with that 8-match ban. And Manchester United, I'm sure they want to recover from that 2-2 draw. They were you think at half-time, 2-0 down, 2-0 up, they should have won that game, but they gave the 3 points away to Spurs, who are themselves the big game tomorrow at Liverpool, which we're covering here at Football Live.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a huge game in the Champions League and the Premier League. Thank you very much, John Kane, for your contributions. As always, it's been a brilliant show. A show that's got 2 minutes left, so it's time that we wrap up our scorelines then and today's results. So in the Premier League, there were 3 games. The only kickoff was Crystal Palace v West Ham, by far the game of the day. Crystal Palace running out winners there 4-3. Brentford and Nottingham Forest, though Brentford won 2-1, and Brighton beat Wolves 6-0. We also were covering Sunderland and Watford. Sunderland coming from 2-0 down to draw 2 against Watford in what could be a big point in their hopes for the playoffs next year. Lille beat AC Ajaccio 3-0, and in the Bundesliga, in what is probably one of the best leagues in the world at the moment, FC Cologne lost to Freiburg 1-0. Frankfurt drew 1-0 to Augsburg 1-1. RB Leipzig beat Hoffenheim 1-0. Stuttgart, they beat Borussia Mönchengladbach 2-1 in what was 2 penalties in the space of 5 minutes, which gave Stuttgart that win and clawed them ever closer out of the relegation zone. Union Berlin drew 0-0 with Leverkusen, and Schalke are currently losing 1-0 to Werder Bremen. Is a game they need to win. AS Roma are drawing 0-0 with AC Milan at half-time, and Torino are kicking off at 7:45 with Atlanta. Elche beat Rayo Vallecano 4-0. Real Madrid are beating Almeria 2-0. And Barcelona v Real Betis, that's coming up at 8 o'clock. It's been a fantastic show with fantastic reporters. Thank you to all our reporters. Thank you to John Kane, the producer and football expert. He does everything. We are back tomorrow between 2 and 6. I think it's Chris Baldwin who's hosting that show tomorrow. Patrick Norret producing, and it's going to be a big game. Impacts in the Premier League title race and the Champions League and the relegation battle. To be back tomorrow, same time.
Today's show was produced by John Kane and powered by Hollandia Civita and our official betting partner, NairaBet.